talking about SNL, the history, the mysteries, and all the hot impressions in between, breaking down all the numbers as well. In the favorite sketches with special guests, it's all on the Saturday Night Network.
Yes, so welcome on in, everybody, to the Saturday Night Network for our first feedback show of season 51. My name is Jon Schneider from the SNN. So excited to be with you tonight for a couple of hours to speak to you and answer all of the questions that you have about these first three shows of season 51. We are, of course, here as a presentation of latenighter.com, and we got Amanda Barkin with us along for the ride. Amanda, how are you?
I am great, John. I just realized it's about 3 years to the week since I first came on the show as a patron originally. So excited to celebrate my anniversary with you and everyone tonight.
Thanks. Happy anniversary. Yeah, really excited to have you on the show here. It's been quite the journey, but happy to have you here with us tonight, Amanda. So for anyone who is coming in for their first season of coverage with us on the SNN, this is what this show is. We do a couple of things. One, we answer questions. So we put out a form every month. Usually it's the day of, where we ask you for any questions about the previous episodes of Saturday Night Live, and we look ahead to the new episodes that are coming out. So we got 3 more episodes coming up for the next 3 weeks in November. So we'll talk about that and preview them. And we try and answer as many questions as possible on the show. I like to get to every one of them unless the question is really stupid. So for the most part, the questions are pretty good. We got lots of pages of questions to go through tonight. So we'll try our best to get through everything we can. We also welcome on our patrons for this show, and those are the biggest supporters of the Saturday Night Network. One of the best perks of being a patron and supporting our show is we get to meet you on our show, and you can come on and podcast and talk about Saturday Night Live. So I'm always super appreciative of everyone who supports us. You can do so by going to patreon.com/the SNL Network, where you can find all of our exclusive podcasts and forms to sign up for these shows. We have the new podcast that Sammy and I have launched this season, our 20 years later look at season 31. Those are available for patrons or for YouTube members of a specific tier. You can register for those. And we also had the form out now. So we have patrons that are joining us for the entire evening. They're going to come in about 15-minute intervals. So we're going to have to meet them, hear their thoughts. And it's also really fun for me because, look, I get to talk to a good amount of people about the show, and I get to read the chat, but sometimes like getting to talk to somebody about what they just saw over the last few weeks and getting a different perspective gives me more things to think about, makes our coverage better. So I'm really appreciative for everyone for signing up for this. And if you've ever been thinking about podcasting about SNL, it's a great opportunity. So that's what we're in for here tonight. Amanda, just checking in with you. It's the first time I'm talking to you on the show since the Hot Take show after the premiere. So how have you felt about SNL recently?
I have actually felt very good. I think that I've been feeling a lot better than I expected to feel coming into the season, having so many veterans that I thought were leaving stay. I've been so pleasantly surprised to see how well the new cast has been integrated for the first 3 weeks. I think that it's such a stark contrast from season 50 when there was so many cameos and so much going on in an election year and this and that. And it was just hard for existing cast members to get a lot of screen time, let alone the rookies. So this has been really a really nice change of pace and almost like a return to form. Seemingly not everything has hit, but I think that that's kind of the beauty of SNL and what an average episode feels like to me. Things work and things don't, and we're just along for the ride and, to analyze it afterwards. So I think that it's been a really good season, and I'm really excited about this current cast and the future, what the future cast in near future will look like. So all good for me so far.
Me too. It's been really exciting. I actually think this is probably the first season since season 48 where I really feel like we sort of have this kind of a fresh start and an ability to look at the show without any extracurricular activity. I think going into 49 with the strikes that were happening, it sort of had a weird start there, and 50 was so much about the anniversary and the election and all the alumni that it's been a few years since I feel like we've been able to just sit back and evaluate the show as it goes. So I'm excited to talk through everything and all of the major storylines of the last few episodes. And we're going to kick off our show tonight by bringing in two amazing patrons who I love getting to speak to every time we do these shows. So first up, I'm going to bring in my man Fred is here. Fred, how are you?
Hey, John. Hey, Amanda. Nice to speak with you both.
Nice to speak to you too. Happy season 51.
Yes, I'm loving it so far. I agree with Amanda. It's been
good. Well, I want to get your thoughts in a
seamless.
second, but I also want to bring in Will Norman is here as well. Will, how are you?
Doing great, John. Hi, Amanda. Hi, Fred. It's good to be with you guys all tonight.
Good seeing you again, Will.
You too, Fred.
Have you both on here today. So, Fred, I will start with you. How have you felt about the show so far? 3 episodes.
So I felt similar to Amanda. I was concerned just with the turnover and also the size of the cast. I do think they're doing a really good job of integrating the new members as well. That being said, I felt like that in the past, and then some people were not brought back, and I have a little bit of PTSD from that. So I don't want to get too excited yet, but it's not worth really thinking that way, especially 3 episodes in. But I do think there are some people, even though they've had, they're in sketches, that I'd love to see them see their voice a bit more, but that's very normal. I think this early on, I think 2 of the 3 episodes I felt were very strong. No, I'm feeling really good about 51. And again, it just hasn't been this strange, odd season. I actually think it's been pretty seamless.
In a way, it almost feels like they need to put a spotlight on the new people because there's so many of them. When you have 1, 2, or 3 new cast members come into the show, it's easier to ignore them because the majority of the cast is returning players. But because there's so many new people, it almost emphasizes the fact that the show should focus on integrating those new cast members. So I think that's a really interesting point, Fred, and I'm happy to hear that you've been enjoying at least 2 out of the 3 of these episodes. Will, how have you felt about the start of the season so far?
Well, number one, it's just great to have SNL back in our lives and have shows to talk about and have coverage back in our lives to be able to see all the new changes in the foundation for the future. So I've actually overall, I've enjoyed the show being back. I think there have been a lot of good moments. I feel like we've had I would probably say for me, the Amy Poehler episode was probably my favorite so far coming out of these first 3 shows. I feel like that's been the best one, but I don't think we've reached the highs that we will hopefully as we move into November and the rest of the season. So I would just say that there's been little moments so far that it made me feel good about the future. There hasn't been that absolute overall banger for me at start to finish for an episode, but it has been nice, to your point, to see and get a feel for the new cast members. I feel like while I don't have final opinions, I have gotten a chance to see every single person, and it's been more of an ensemble approach, which I can appreciate versus the past where you get to this point sometime in the season and there might be 1 or 2 cast members you just don't know what they're going to do, what they're bringing to the show because they've been benched to make room for some of the regular the regular players. So overall, I feel like it's been a good start. It's been solid. There's room to grow, and I feel good about what we could potentially see more of in November.
Fred, do you have any questions or anything that you would like to talk about from what you've seen over the last few weeks?
No, I think just a comment on I think Amy's episode was a lot of what I was hoping for last season, and I'm glad they finally got to do it this season. I think there were a lot of good throwbacks, which they did sprinkle in a lot, and especially leading up to the 50th. But I really did appreciate her episode, just celebrating that 50 years since the George Carlin episode, having the joke off and the cameos. I don't know. I know sometimes it can get tired, but I am a sucker when it is old cast members. Question wise, just more I am curious to see if the women of the cast are gonna get almost worn out, they're used so much, and then how will that play out? Will somebody maybe join halfway? Those sort of things just are on my radar, but no standout questions.
Yeah. Amanda, I'm curious your thoughts. That is something that we will definitely talk about when we get to some of the feedback questions tonight. But the use of the women in the cast, the fact that there is only half the amount of women than there is men, is that a concern for you watching the show, seeing that maybe that they could get worn out?
It wasn't until you phrased it that way. I've definitely noticed seeing Sarah and Chloe, who we're not used to seeing in 4 or 5 sketches in a row, playing every female part, which is really fascinating. I guess that burnout is a concern. It's probably a two-way street. I don't want to get burned out from them either. And I think that sometimes when you're having to, whereas like Sarah and Chloe maybe used to be involved in sketches that showcase them specifically. Like Sarah started out within her own like very specific flavor and brand, Chloe with her impressions, and now the two of them are clearly being utilized as a straight man player and utility players, which is really interesting to see. I think that we could be burned out by them, but then I also think that I'll be really excited when we get a Sarah showcase that is more of the Sarah Squirm flavor that we saw originally. I heard you talk about this a little bit a couple weeks ago. I'm really hoping that Sarah is not. You said neutered, right? If I say neutered, it won't be. I won't have been the first one.
Is that an incorrect term to use?
I just don't know. I don't know.
Should I say
It's about a
spayed?
dog. Well, I guess yes, spayed, but I would like to see Sarah be disgusting in the future and not just like, kind of like the kind of the Mikey Day, like this like straight man reacting to like the craziness going on around her is very odd to see, but
Right.
interesting to see her kind of flex those like utility muscles. I hadn't thought about them getting burnt out. I'm sure that for now, I mean, they're probably taking their well-deserved break this week. They're probably pretty excited about not having to fight as many people for the same roles, but whether or not it takes away from the overall quality remains to be seen, I think, especially since we do have women that are first and second year, featured players to put in.
Will, do you want to jump in on this?
Yeah, I just wanted to add something to what Amanda was saying and to what you're saying as well. And I know that's been a topic of conversation with the women in the cast and how they're going to get used. And I do agree, if they just use them in the same ways we've seen them, sitting at the restaurant, not, being dates, being, kind of just in the same types of roles, I think they will get burnt out. But those little glimmers like Boys Podcast, where they had all the cast members playing 13-year-old boys, it was a very fun way to see like, hey, if this writing, if the writers here really just have fun with the fact that they can use everyone in different ways and not put everyone in like pigeonhole them into certain roles or certain ways of being, they can have a lot of fun given the limitations of the genders on the cast. But I thought that was a good way to see how they could potentially use the ladies and have them more things to do than just the standard types of roles they might be given in the past.
I'm not really concerned about burnout. Like, I do think that a fair consequence of having less women in the cast is that they're more likely to be used in the straight man role. So I think we're headed down the right path here. But I think as far as burnout is concerned, first of all, very early into the season. So I think like if we see evidence of it, we'll call it out. But I don't think that we're seeing that. And I don't think that we will, because truth be told, I think 5 women in the cast is an acceptable number if there was an equal number of men in the cast. But I think that it's the fact that there's so many more men that makes it stand out that there's so few women. So I think in that case, what we're looking at here is there's not like extra sketches. So the women who are there with 5 women in the cast, like that for like 35 years, there was no more than 5 women in the cast. So I think that it is definitely a reasonable thing to assume that they are going to get a great workload. If anything, I think that this will only help with their legacies and their perception on the show, because they're going to get more opportunities and more reps to be in sketches. So I think those are positive things. Obviously, there's the diversity angle as well, where we would like to have a more diverse group of men and women on the show. But so there's positives and negatives, I think, when we're breaking this down in terms of how this cast is put together. And maybe it didn't go exactly how they planned it would be into 51, but still a fascinating conversation. And Will, I would love to know from you, do you have any questions or things that you would like to talk about?
Yeah, definitely. I have a question for the group, and you can pick. It's technically a 3-part question, but you can pick whichever one you want to answer. What would you like the show to either start, stop, or continue doing in November?
All right. Stop, start, or continue doing in November. I will throw out that I would like to see them continue using the featured players the way that I've seen them. I really felt like one of the best things about the Sabrina Carpenter episode, even if it wasn't as strong for me as I felt with the Amy episode, was that they really felt like they were checking a lot of boxes about like, hey, we're going on break. We got to make sure we give certain people time on the show. Let's make sure we get Tommy on update, Veronica a sketch. I like the way that they're thinking. It seems like there's actually a game plan that for like once in a few years we could follow. Like, okay, there's a head coach on the sidelines and we could actually understand the plays that they're calling. Like, that's how I feel about watching that Sabrina episode. I'd say the one person that maybe I'd like to see them start using more is Jeremy, who I think has gotten a good amount of time on air, but we haven't fully seen him have this moment where, except maybe for the emo mom where he had a significant role, like we haven't seen him really take over something. Fred, how about you? How do you think anything or any of ideas for starting, stopping, or continuing?
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to, just before too much time has passed, we missed out on a David Spade joke with the spade.
Ah, yes.
Okay.
Spade in America, of course.
But now that's been 6 minutes. I think the other thing I just want to point out that I've been impressed with is also like there's like clearly like a small group that's a bit older than some of like the newer people or like the medium term people, and I feel like it's been like pretty seamless there as well. So like I felt like the Sabrina Carpenter episode almost looked like what SNL is going to look like going forward. So that's just like another thing that stood out to me. But you know, I would like to just see that more. Like basically like kind of like the Kenan Thompsons and like the Mikey Days kind of blending and like Amy Poehler still blending seamlessly with like a lot of the new players. They were involved a lot in her episode, and I really like that.
Amanda, what about you? I'll go to you on the question that we'll ask.
I don't know which part I should answer. I mean, I think that in November, I would like them to stop doing Domingo. If they were considering doing Domingo, I think that they should stop and also stop with the half-baked iterations of concepts. That really frustrates me. And I really actually ended up really liking the Sabrina Carpenter episode, but I was extremely frustrated from the start. I know that's polarizing, but that is how I felt.
I don't think you're the only one.
I know, polarizing. Some
Amy
people.
polarizing.
I was thinking
Amy
that too.
polarizing. Yeah, Amy
I was trying to
polarizing.
behave myself and not.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Well, it was an Amy episode. I thought that too. I polarizing in the sense that some people really like it, and clearly it does. You know, it helps the show in some way. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it. I want to continue seeing as much Andrew Dismukes as we've been seeing. That's been really fun this year. I mean, and in recent years, but now especially that the dust has settled from 50. Sorry. What was the third one? Something I want, something I don't want, and
continue doing or start doing.
Oh, start doing. Okay. I want to see the musical guests more integrated into sketches, pre-tapes, into the show going forward. I always want to see that because I think it's just interesting and a curveball, and it's kind of like low-hanging fruit, but in a good way. Like I love when pre-tape plays and the musical guest comes in and like the crowd goes crazy as if like they didn't know that this person was like in the building for half of the week, but it's just fun. And it's like adds to the social experiment aspect, which is I think what I watch the show for, and put them in. I mean, we had, I guess, Bad Bunny didn't do double duty. Sabrina did.
Well, I think Doja Cat had co-hosted The Tonight Show the week that she was musical guest.
Right.
So I think maybe that prohibited her from finding time to rehearse sketches, and then role model. I don't know. Yeah, I guess they didn't find places for Tucker to get into some sketches, but he had his thing with Charlie XCX, so that was a whole other thing. All right, well, Will and Fred, I really appreciate you joining us to kick off our show here. I'm going to throw one question at each of you before we wrap up your time with us here. So at Sydney Ad, I wrote to us on Instagram and asked, which of the next three hosts are you guys most excited to see? So we got Miles Teller, Nikki Glazer, and Glenn Powell coming up in November. Will, what do you think? Which one are you most excited to see?
I'm most excited to see Miles Teller. I thought they had one of the best and underrated season premieres we've had in a long time. We're talking about like a rocky start somewhat in some ways to the first 3 of this season. I really enjoyed him when he came into host, and I'm looking forward to hopefully them bringing back the Manning cast. I thought that it was a really fun meta way to look at the show. So I'm hoping that we get a chance to see that again and him to do another solid job as in his second stint as a host.
I agree. I would love to see that this weekend. Fred, what about you? Which one of these 3 are you the most excited about?
I'm most excited for Nikki Glazer. I do think that she can really push the envelope. I feel like she might come in and appreciate things that either push the envelope or they're a bit more alt or like she, because she has like that comedic eye. I think she might like push some sketches forward that she like really appreciates that maybe like a more traditional actor may not. With Glenn Powell, I'm just worried it's going to be like he's handsome. It's going to be like a lot of that. And look, there's 5 cast members that can play off of that, but I'm more excited to see like what they do with the Nikki Glazer type. I think we haven't seen somebody like her, like with her voice in quite a bit.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And Nikki's the only one we haven't ever seen on Saturday Night Live. I believe Glenn Powell appeared in the Sydney Sweeney episode. And of course, Miles Teller hosted the show and was just at SNL 50. So lots to look forward to in November. And we'll be talking about that. But Will and Fred, thank you so much for joining us here. Always great to catch up with you. So Will, appreciate you, buddy.
Appreciate you too, John. Great to see you guys. As
Great to see you. Fred, thank you for joining us. Appreciate you, man.
Okay.
Talk to you guys soon. All right, Amanda, let's bring in our next set of guests joining us here tonight. And we're going to bring in the Saturday Night Ladies joining us up now. So here is Shari, and we got Deej.
Hello. I'm doing okay. This was a nice little break from editing, but after this, I'll just have to get right back to it because episode out tomorrow.
Okay, very exciting. Well, I think that there's a lot of people who know you both. You've been on the show before, and they've seen you in our chats, so always appreciate you seeing there. But maybe there's some listeners who don't know that you two host your own podcast. So, Deej, you want to give the pitch on what you got going on with Shari?
We do indeed. Well, when the SNL Hall of Fame basically stopped doing the podcast, Shari was a regular on what they call the water cooler show. And of course, that ended. And I'm thinking, no, we can't lose Shari's voice on the air. And I had this idea in the back of my mind, Saturday Night Ladies, because SNL is lots of dudes, and it's good to have something from a lady's perspective, because we're going to be covering people from the episodes every week, people behind the scenes as well, so writers and directors, so we're not leaving anything out. Basically just a celebration of Saturday Night Live and the ladies, and their great history with the show, because there's only so many times you can see a guy in a dress.
That makes sense. Well, I love it, and so happy to support the two of you. Shari, how are you?
Shari, can you tell me who this is? Because I love them.
Okay, this is Deli, and then you can't see Arlo, but he's on the couch too.
What's their name?
Arlo and Deli.
Deli. So
Very
cute. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Thank you.
Very cute. So, Shari, how are you, and how have you been enjoying the first month of season 51?
I've been pretty happy with it. I mean, every season has its ups and downs, as Deej and I have been talking about. But for the most part, it's been entertaining. We're coming off a big high with season 50. So, yeah, I'm just like Will and Fred were saying, I'm just glad the show is back.
Yeah, same here. And Deej, how about you? How do you feel about these first 3 weeks?
Oh, I mean, as usual, the first episode is like usually hit or miss just because they've been gone for so long, and then also all the cast shakeups they had beforehand. So, but it's been actually been really great. I love the new ladies on the show. Veronica, another fellow Canadian, and she's just epically talented with what she was doing with the singing in the Sabrina Carpenter episode, and I'm definitely on the Ashley Padilla love train. And this last episode, it was great to see a really good role for Jane Wickline in the podcast sketch at the beginning. That was a really good showcase for her. So the ladies are killing it this season.
Yeah, I think they're all doing a really great job. And I'd love to ask you two some questions from our mailbag as we'll open it up now. So you spoke about some of the women, some of the newer cast members. So we have this great question that our friend Ajax sent in. And he asked, of the 5 new cast members, so we got Ben, Tommy, Cam, Jeremy, and Veronica, Who do you see emerging as a future star, and who is the sleeper waiting for their moment to shine? So would love to know from the two of you any predictions from what you've seen. We only have 3 episodes. I mean, Ben, we've known a lot longer, but is there anyone here who you think is a future superstar and anyone who's maybe a sleeper pick? Shari, I'll start with you.
Oh, Deej and I have been talking about this a lot lately, especially after episode 3. I think Veronica's on the rocket, man. She's just been bringing it, and the way she handled that costume malfunction was seamless, and a lesser newbie couldn't have handled it. So I think she's destined for great things. Of the 5 that's come, of the 5 that have come on, I feel like she's going to be the breakout. But we'll see.
Yeah. Amanda, what do you think? Do you have a pick for sleeper or maybe somebody who's going to break out from these 5?
My sleeper is Ben Marshall. I think that we've seen that. I think that Ben, you might roll your eyes at me for going there, but it gives me like a little bit of a Pete quality in that he's kind of like an underdog in the sketch, and then he'll just kind of react, and it's like very endearing. Maybe he's just tall, and that's just it. But I feel like I am really excited to see Ben in this new role and in roles. You're not. Why are you're making this face? Shall I go on or?
it's very. I should have predicted.
I love Ben Marshall, and I don't know if it's like the novelty.
Amanda loves her tall men.
I do love tall men, but I think that there's like a novelty of seeing him like play in this new space that it's almost like just funny when he appears in a sketch as a cast member. So he's my sleeper. But I also agree that Veronica is so far the natural of the 5. And I think that Jeremy also could be. I think that it's very clear that he has sketch chops, and that I'm hoping that there will be spots for him to break out. I think he's very like down to clown, for a lack of a better way to say it, and I'm excited for that, and think that he'll just get more and more comfortable. Unbelievable how comfortable Veronica seems already. I did not see the wardrobe malfunction because, as discussed, it did not make it to the Peacock version of the episode. So I need to go and look that up, actually. So I'm going to do that after this.
Yeah, it was basically one of the side panels of the dryer thing that she was in was like coming out. So she angled herself so that you wouldn't see it when the shot went back to her, which just shows like how experienced she is, clearly.
Yeah.
Gets that. So that was a really important moment.
Yeah, the instincts. I think that sometimes you either like have instincts or you don't, and maybe you can come to develop like a skill and the experience that allows you to kind of keep it together. But the instincts are there. Like you're on live television, primetime television, and
Agreed. Deej, what about you? What do you think of the new
Well, I'm definitely Veronica. I think she's definitely going to be with us for years to come. I'm pretty sure that unless Lauren decides to pull another Chloe Trost on us, here's hoping he doesn't. Now, as far as sleeper is concerned, I will admit I was one of the Cam doubters, and after he did his weekend update thing, just to address all the stuff to get out of the way, and then the stuff I've seen him in so far, he's really surprised me. I always make sure to keep an open mind, because every new cast member has to adjust to the SNL sensibility. So a lot of the stuff that he will do with his stand-up will not work. But the way he was in the Frankenstein movie, the social experiment sketch, and the few things I've seen him in so far, I think he has a lot of good potential. So I'm excited to watch his trajectory.
Me too. I was actually going to say the same thing about Cam as a sleeper pick. I think that he's definitely been the one that's been used the least. That Martin Herlihy film was filmed before week number 1. So he really hasn't had a lot to do in the last couple of weeks, but I really wish we would have seen that sooner, because I think it maybe would have given him, a further inspiration to do more in the last couple of weeks. So I'm excited to see what he's going to do in sketches that aren't update pieces or filmed pieces. I think that I made the comparison to Tracy, and it's not just that they're both black men, but I do feel like there's something about him that has like a really unique personality that he brings to the show. And I find that if SNL takes those personalities and hones them the right way, they're really powerful in the cast. And I remember, watching Tracy Morgan, where all of a sudden we would finish a sketch and go backstage, and Tracy would walk back and bump into Lorne as like an interstitial between sketches. And he would like turn to Lorne and say, like, Lorne would be like, "Oh, good job, Tracy." And he would turn to Lorne and say, like, "Bitch, get me a soda." And all of a sudden you like realized, okay, like this is who Tracy is. Like he has his personality. And then and I feel like Cam kind of has that personality. And I think you saw it in the Martin film where he's sitting there like all cool with the Frankensteins. So he's definitely a sleeper pick for me. And I'm totally with you. I think Veronica had a great night. If it wasn't for Ashley just like taking off like a rocket, as Shari said, like I think we would all have been talking about Ashley from week number 3. Veronica. Yeah.
We were just saying last night, promote Ashley now.
Yeah, so I guess we could talk about that now. So there was a question from our friend Victor who said, I've seen online that people are clamoring for Ashley to be promoted ASAP right now. Do we think a promotion for her will really change anything of how the show uses her? So certainly been a topic that we've been discussing a lot here about her rise to stardom. It's been a long time since we've seen someone promoted super quickly. Is this something that you both do want to see?
I definitely do, as I just mentioned, because I see a little bit of Christian Wiig in her, and I just like excited to see what characters she's going to come up with. It just, and like you were saying on the post show last week, the West Coast people who didn't watch live got robbed from not seeing the live reaction in the Office fart sketch, because just the use of same thing with comedy with music. Sometimes it's the notes you don't play that can make the biggest impact. So the sort of repeated silences, very similar to when Peter Griffin got his basically shin bash, is going to we're going to do that for an extended period of time. And it's one of the things you think it's going on a little long, but then it comes back to being really funny again. So yeah, when I saw that they did not include that in the YouTube version, I was not happy.
Yeah, I mean, this is a practice that they've employed for a long time. It's just worse when you have a moment that is so dependent on watching it live and getting to see magic happen, and they take that away from all the people who don't get to watch the show live. That's why I called it out the way that I did. But Shari, how do you feel about all this talk about Ashley and her being promoted?
I don't think I've been watching this show when you and Amanda were wee babies. And I don't think I've seen somebody get this kind of buzz in a long, long time. I mean, she's gotten buzz out of the gate. And it's just, this season, it's just built to a crescendo. Do I think it's going to lead to a promotion? I don't know. They don't really do that much anymore. But I guess we'll see. She certainly deserves it. She's doing the work. She should get paid for it. But it's SNL, and they're going to do what they're going to do. I think they're going to wait till the fall. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Amanda, what do you think? Is there anything to this whole let's promote Ashley movement?
I hadn't really thought about it, but I should have known to look for this and buy the numbers. But I think just the cheapness of SNL and NBC, if it means paying her more, then I don't see why they do it sooner than later. But I also, on the flip side, don't see it holding her back that if they wait until next year. I don't think it makes any bit of a difference on her screen time or the types of roles that she gets or how featured she is and like promos and everything. And I just say that not only has her rise been like so meteoric, but she came in. I know we've discussed this, but like on the podcast, we knew the least about her of everyone coming in last year. She came in with, the smallest, I'd say, like social media following of the people that came in, like her presence, she wasn't a stand-up. Her personal brand was not something that she led with as a new cast member. So to go from that to being as popular as she is now among us and the fans is like really cannot be stated enough how it is just truly based on us just being dazzled by her every time she's on the screen and kind of addicted to seeing her more. I don't know about the promotion. I always think about when Ego got promoted, and I think Bowen and Chloe were it's their second year of being repertoire. There was like a Bowen posted like Ego just like running around making fun of them for being featured, and she just kept saying I'm repertory, and like they were like, what does that even mean? And that's what I always go to because I still don't really know, except it's what happens when you're no longer featured. So I don't know how much it matters. It doesn't matter much to me, but I would love to learn if I'm wrong and it matters more than I think.
Yeah.
Well, I think casual walking down the street has no idea who's a repertory or a featured player. They don't know. But I think it's a antiquated term that we use to adjust pay scale. And it came from a place where people were writers and were coming out of the writer's room onto the show, that we can't call them full cast members. We can't pay them as full cast members. So we're going to call them featured players, and eventually developed into, well, the first couple of years, you're sort of learning the ropes. However, clearly Ashley is being pushed on the show more than the average feature player, which I understand that movement. Just to give my take, and then we'll wrap up with Deej and Shari. I think that there's a 0% chance that this is going to happen because of Jane Wickline still being there as well. There's no way that they promote Ashley and not promote Jane. It's just not something that's going to happen. They're in the same year they came in together. It's just they don't typically do something like that. I think you can go back to Amy Poehler, but Amy was the only woman that was brought in with her class of Dean Edwards and Jeff Richards and Seth Meyers. So I think there was something to that was like contract related.
Yes.
It would just be very unusual to me. I think if Jane was not brought back, then and Ashley was the only second year player, I think there's a very good argument for it. But that's probably my biggest hesitation. Deej, please tell the listeners where they could find all of the great work that you and Shari are doing.
Well, Saturday Night Ladies comes out every Tuesday. This week is what's I'll be getting to back to editing tonight. We had Demi on the show last night where we're discussing, we picked out 2 of our favorite female-centric sketches throughout the years, and it was an awesome discussion. Debbie, we love her so much. Just have to get the editing done, which is always the longest part of this process. But it's all worth it. And of course, We Heart Hater. We're recording on Wednesday. I'm recording that with, of course, my other partner, Casey Killingsworth. And for that one, we're doing Bill Hader's animated guest role. So things he's done for like The Simpsons. He did a couple episodes of Randy Cunningham, Teenage Ninja, because we already did the movie minor roles. So this is I think the 4th in our series of those small roles.
Amazing. Well, thank you for joining us, Deej, and thank you, Shari, as well. Always great to see you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you, and thank you all for your support, everyone in the chat, and of course John and the Saturday Night Network. The fact that you encourage this. I never thought I'd have 2 podcasts. Never did. This was not on my.
It's all you.
This is not on my 2025 bingo card.
It's all you both for doing this, and keep up the great work. And as a community, we need to support you both. So thank you for all the work you're doing.
Thanks.
And good night to the pets.
Yes,
bye to the dogs.
We will see you both soon. Thanks
and
for joining us for tonight. Yeah, okay.
Bye.
All right, next time. All right, see you guys. All right, Amanda, let's keep this show going. We're on a roll here. We're going to bring in my man, Steve Bishop is with us now. Steve, how are you?
Doing well, John. Amanda, good to talk to you for the first time. Glad to be back on the SNN.
Glad to have you on here, Steve.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you well. Now you're coming in great. So would love to know how you felt about the season so far.
Well, I'll be honest. My first season I started watching was season 21. So the notion of upheaval was not something that really scared me necessarily. In fact, I kind of looked forward to it, seeing a lot of new cast members come in. As sad as I was to see Heidi go and to see Ego go and to see Longfellow leave and a lot of the other cast members leave. But overall, I feel pretty positive about where the show is headed. I would like to see one more cast member get hired, possibly a female person of color, just to make sure, just to have that representation in place. Also to have somebody funny, who's a funny Black female character as well. But as far as like the new cast members, I think they're coming in at the right time, because they're not coming in on an anniversary year. They're not coming in on a. They're not coming in in an election year. They're getting an honest long look, and I like to see that we're seeing a good look from Veronica. We're seeing Tommy and Cam appear in Update. I would like to see them in sketches a little bit more than I have. And then we've seen a fair bit of Jeremy as well, and Ben. Ben's not really a newcomer per se, maybe new to live sketch work, but he's been every bit as much. Well, he's been every as good as every bit as good as I've expected. My words are faster than my thoughts at this point.
It happens to me all the time, so don't worry at all. Well, I want to know, Steve, before we get into some other questions that hopefully you can help us answer here tonight. Do you have any questions for Amanda or I?
I have one question, and it's based upon the last appearance that I came here. I was, of course, many of the patrons, as myself, were here for the top 50 episodes of all time series that you guys did over the summer. Now that we've had 3 episodes, and if we could add the 3 episodes to the list, I know how high, John, you were on the Amy Poehler episode. Where would that episode be in the top 50, or would it be in the top 50? And Amanda, feel free to chime in. And if Bill Kenny's in the chat, I'd love to hear from him. I don't know if he is.
I don't know if Bill's with us tonight, but maybe I'll send him a text. I'll see if he can get back to me. I don't think do I think that there's episodes that are less deserving to be in the top 50 that made it than Amy's? Yes. Do I think that Amy is a top 50 episode in actuality? Probably not. I think that I could argue top 100. I think that maybe top 75 there's an argument for, but it's hard to say, because I think that what makes the episode so great is that it has a lot of legacy points. So you have the fact that it aired exactly 50 years to the date of the start of the show. You have Seth and Amy and Tina on Weekend Update. You have a vintage performance from an all-time great cast member returning. Those things tend to age really well when you give them time. So it's hard for me to sit here today, even though I did genuinely feel like it was a modern classic that night, and say that this was a top 50 episode. I think with some perspective, I may be able to look at it and say, like, okay, the legacy of that really strong Amy episode, which probably was her best hosted episode, has an argument to be there. It's just so hard to do that 2 weeks out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think there's something to be said for sort of having the benefit of hindsight. Obviously with certain, with the list that we put together, you guys put together over the summer, certain episodes you're not going to have the benefit of hindsight, like with the Pedro Pascal episode from season 49, like with the Jack Black episode, which I personally didn't even think was the best episode from season 50. I would have put the Gaga episode, or even maybe the Ariana Grande episode on that list as well. But yeah, I think there's something you said that, but it's interesting that you bring up all of these legacy points. I would think that would be like a thing in its favor towards possibly being in the top 50. But again, it is in its favor. You want to see it age well. I understand that.
Yeah, it is in its favor. It's just that the favor that it gets doesn't go melt into stone like 2 weeks later. This is like something that you look back at and you're like, wow, I really feel like that, in the context of the rest of the series, it had all of that. It's just, I don't want to sound wishy-washy, but I do feel like it's one of those ones that I still genuinely feel really strongly about. It is by far my favorite episode of the season. I pretty much liked every sketch. There is a full argument that it is one of the greatest episodes in the series. I just don't know if it is actually top 50 right now, because I think I even texted after the fact. I said, like, maybe we needed like one recurring sketch that night, like a crazy Bronx beat or something. Like if we had that and it slapped, then we were like, okay, now we're talking. But I think maybe that was the one ingredient that I sort of felt was missing. I would love to get Amanda in on this conversation. So what do you think of all of this?
To me, the Amy episode was so good because it was feel good in like a surgical way, in that Amy doesn't miss. She came in, she blended in with the cast. We were, you know, we never really lost momentum. It was positive after, you know, Tina was there. But I feel like, I haven't said this on the podcast yet, but I think that there almost could have been a little bit more. I never really felt the adrenaline that I was expecting to feel, maybe the way you do in like certain Five Timers episodes. You know, John Mulaney. Like, I think that I was expecting it to be a bit more. I think it was an incredibly solid episode by one of the best cast members of all times that I enjoyed from start to finish. But I don't know that it's had like the spark of something crazy that is going to make it memorable for me in hindsight, because I already don't feel like that, I guess. And, you know, we don't have, it hasn't been, it's only been 2-3 weeks since it happened. But loved it from start to finish. And maybe it just depends on how we're kind of judging what makes a top 50 episode. Because if it's about like consistency, good, you know, good from front to back, then I think that it makes it. It just doesn't give me like the that I'm looking for. So that's my take.
Yeah.
So that's the great thing about this argument. I was going to say, that's the
that,
great thing about this argument is that we all have a different definition of what we would consider like the greatest episode.
100%.
But some of them we all agree on, and it has like kind of an intangible quality to it that's like, holy shit, like this is why we watch live TV. And like, I don't know.
I'll also say that I would pretty much argue that this was one of the top 5 most favorite episodes of mine to cover here on the podcast. We've been doing the show. This is now into our 6th year. I'm like writing down a list of episodes that I could think of where I was so excited to just jump on the Hot Take Show after. The Anya Taylor-Joy episode, right. The season 46 finale, Sudeikis and Mulaney from 47. There was like an incredible run in 48, but they sort of blend together, so it's hard for me to say that. I don't think 49 had that. I think Gaga, the episode that you mentioned, Steve, was like the one in 50 that I was really excited about. Also Marty's for certain reasons. But really, like, it had been many years since I was just like, oh my gosh, I can get on the Hot Take Show and I don't have anything bad to say about this episode. Like, that's so exciting.
And maybe that's what I'm going on here. Is it seemed like it was a very very high episode. So I understand that. I'm still trying to parse that myself. I think I think for me it's probably just outside the list. But it was, like I said, it was a very, very good episode, and part and parcel of why I've been very pleased with what we've seen so far. And we had one really good episode with Sabrina Carpenter, one uneven episode with Bad Bunny, but it was a premiere, and we've had bumpy premieres before. So I'm excited for what we're about to see in November. Yeah.
So, Steve, I do want to ask you a question. And by the way, I just texted Bill, so I'll get his take before you leave us tonight. But sure. One of our questions came in in the mailbag that was from @IWannaRock_01, who said, do you like episodes with more cameos or barely any cameos? And we are talking about part of the greatness of that Poehler episode was the specific cameos we got, was seeing people like Seth and Tina again. And then we followed that up by getting no cameos whatsoever in the Sabrina episode. Do you have a preference from what you saw from those last two?
It's funny because I did like the Poehler episode a lot, and and they did find a way to get those cameos in, but also allow for the sketch time. My preference is probably, I would say, a more team no cameo, but I feel like that's also such an extreme, though. Like, because you want to be able to celebrate the history of the show. You want to have that surprise element of, oh my God, that star is here. That star is in the building, and it is appearing in a sketch that I didn't know. Tom Hanks is in the building. So I don't want to completely say no cameos, but I feel like there is a little bit of I do feel like you can overdo it a little bit. And I understood it with season 50 because you wanted to bring in you wanted to celebrate your past. You wanted to bring in well-known stars from the past. You wanted to bring in cast members and bring them into roles. It's just tough when it's a 17-member ensemble cast and you want to give them all a look, or you want at least, you want to figure out a way to get them all into the show. And it reminded me of the beginning of season 50. You had those long political cold opens where you had Maya playing Kamala Harris and you had Jim Gaffigan playing Tim Walz, and it went to the detriment of. I mean, Emil got on an update, and Jane Wickline got an update piece. We barely saw Ashley before the election was over, and so that was. I think it can be to the detriment of certain cast members. So I lean no cameos, but I also don't want to say no cameos. I just want to say no cameos all the time.
Yeah, that is fair. Amanda, do you have a take on this?
I think that I agree with Steve in that it has to be a balance. There are times when I don't want them and times when I do. So I know that's not very good guidance for, our NBC spies listening in. But I think that I really like a cameo that is unexpected. But I also don't like being deprived of the cameo that we are expecting going into the week. Like that is unsatisfying sometimes. My favorite moments are when I'm not thinking about a cameo at all, and then there is a cameo that like knocks it out of the park. That's very hard to achieve and depends on a lot of factors, but I'm happy for a little bit of a breather from the volume of cameos that we saw last year, and I'm excited to see them execute them more deliberately, not just like what megastar is in the building or in the city, which is kind of fun because that is just crazy. And like one of the, special things about having a executive producer like Lorne Michaels, who can just summon whoever is, in Midtown at the time. But I really do just like cameos that are deliberate and that they like harken back to something or they're making a specific point. And there's a point to that appearance of that person in that moment. And that to me is just like magic when it happens. So I know that wasn't a very helpful answer, but that's how I feel.
I think it was. I think it made sense. So
okay.
I liked it.
Sense.
Steve, I got an answer from our favorite elder statesman, Bill Kenny. He says top 50 episode
You
ever.
said it.
Nah, Rudman's makes that impossible. Bull. So
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I would have said the same for Jared's room in the Lindsay Lohan episode. No, that would be my nah. But okay, understandable.
Right. And I don't know that this episode has a Debbie Downer-esque moment to catapult it into the top 50. So I do think that if it makes it there, it's a lot of, solid sketches throughout the night and legacy points. But my plan in general is not to revisit a countdown for like 10 years if we can avoid it. So we'll see.
It doesn't sound like you can.
Well, this
was the only time I was ever going to bring it up.
No, we could talk about if things should be on a countdown, but I won't like redo the entire countdown series for probably a decade. That's what I'll say. Yeah. Well, Steve, thank you for joining us here tonight. It's always great to catch up with you and appreciate you calling in.
All right. Thanks, John. Thanks, Amanda. Good to see you. And talk to you soon.
Yeah. Best voice in the business, Steve Bishop. So thanks for joining us, buddy. All right, Amanda, ready to continue?
Yeah. I just have to call out that there's a hole in my sweater that I just noticed. And if you see it, I don't want you to think that.
What would we think?
I just feel like I need to get ahead of the narrative. I felt it. I was like, what is that breeze in my armpit? And there's a hole in my secondhand cashmere sweater. So that's all.
I thought you were going for an Amy Poehler joke.
That was way too much of a laugh and that deserved. It just calmed me.
Thank you. Okay, let's bring in our next set of patrons joining us here to talk some SNL. So first up, let's bring in my man, Marcus. Marcus, how are you?
Amy Poehler, my God, man. Hello, John. Hello, Amanda.
Great to see you, Marcus.
We set that up to welcome you in.
Of course. And my buddy Max is here. Max, how are you?
I'm doing good. And just so you know, Amanda, I have a hole in my shirt right here. You can't really see it, but this is my
Max
most comfortable
Poehler.
shirt.
Yeah.
And that's the most comfortable shirt, and I love wearing it after work, so I have to wear it anyways.
Yes.
I wore
there
this
you
to
go.
work today, but that's okay.
Okay, nobody noticed.
Yeah, fine.
My work was from here today.
All right, let's talk about some Saturday Night Live. So I would love to know from the two of you how you're feeling about the season so far. Max, I know you always have some very interesting things to say, so setting you up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm feeling pretty good. I was actually like fairly high going into it. Like I liked a lot of the new cast choices. I was obviously upset about the people leaving and kind of the gender disparity, but I was high on the new hires overall and very high on Ashley, as everyone else was. So I'm happy to see the way they're being used. And outside of the premiere, which no one loved, I've really enjoyed the last couple episodes.
Marcus, what about you? How do you feel about these first three that we saw for season 51?
Overall, I feel pretty much like the same thing. Essentially, Bad Bunny 1 didn't really do it well for me, essentially, even though I didn't really find it that bad, no pun intended. The Poehler episode, I would say, as I agree with everyone else here, it's pretty much like the top tier for me, essentially. Between the three, it would be Poehler, Carpenter, and Bad Bunny. But overall, I've been enjoying the season pretty much for those first three episodes and getting to know the new cast, too.
Definitely. Speaking of the new cast, I had this question that I want to ask you both to jump in on. And then, of course, if either of you have questions for us, happy to answer them. This comes from @HowDoWeHuman on Instagram, who wrote into us and said, how important is it for Jeremy, Veronica, and Ben to get on the Weekend Update desk in this next batch of episodes? So for the new cast, we've seen Tommy, we saw Cam at the desk, so we got the two stand-ups there. But is there, a thing that maybe we should keep an eye out for these next three where, like, could we get Jeremy? Could we get Veronica, and should we get Ben on there at any point? Max, what do you think?
That's interesting. I mean, Cam and Tommy obviously had to.
Max, we got you. We may have lost Max there, so I'm gonna send the question over to you, Marcus, until we get Max back with us.
I think I'm good.
Okay. All right.
Am I good?
Yeah, we got you back now. All right.
All
So
right,
let me just reset so we can just get that in cleanly for the audio feed. So Max, sending it over to you for your thoughts and if you think that we should see any of these three on the update desk.
Yeah. So obviously Cam and Tommy were important to get on there for their own reasons, but with the other three, I don't really think Ben needs to. I mean, we all know him. We've known him for years. I think it would be nice to get him on update, but we don't really need it in these next three episodes. And then for Veronica, kind of the same thing. Like, we've seen her first big sketch. I don't think her career is going to be determined that we could update. I think she's going to have a lot of big sketches, and then maybe like twice a year she'll have a good update character, but it's not going to be her thing. I think Jeremy, definitely out of the three of them, the most would do well from having like a weird out of left field character, show who he is, give him some good laughs, make him funny and not just a straight man.
Yeah, I mean, he reminds me so much of Bobby, and I want Jeremy to like build out his own path for him. But I do think that Bobby was so solid in sketches for a while as being like the third or fourth guy in a sketch. And it just fit in so beautifully. And then eventually he found his way over to Update and really like made his mark there with Drunk Uncle and some of the other characters that he brought over there. And I do wonder if like there are some really good characters for Jeremy to build out that are in the vein of what we saw from a guy like Bobby. And clearly, if you go and you watch Jeremy's work for pre-SNL, there's a lot of character work in there. So I would think that he's very well suited to being at the desk. I just wonder in this era if we've seen somebody like Jeremy thrive at the desk. So that'll be something interesting to watch. But Marcus, how do you feel about these three and potentially heading over to the desk?
Overall, I feel pretty much like the similarly. I feel like Jeremy would pretty much like be the most likely to be on updates, because we've seen Veronica in a couple of like stand-up sketches, including the one from Sabrina Carpenter's episode. And Ben, we've seen him a lot in the PDD sketches, essentially. So he probably doesn't really need the update treatment, essentially. So we also think Jeremy can the most likely will deservedly get the update spot at some point down the line.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, Marcus, do you have any questions for us or anything that you want to talk about from this season?
Wait, I want to say that Veronica should be on Update, even though she's in sketches, a la Ashley having her breakout moment as a sketch performer on the Update desk. That's all.
Sorry, I forgot you were here.
Yeah.
No.
But it was the hole in my shirt. You just passed me up.
I mean, I don't disagree. She needs to be on update. I just don't think it needs to happen like these next 3 episodes, like I think it probably does for Jeremy.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. All right. So let's talk about anything else that you guys want to cover. So Marcus, did you have any questions for us? Or
Honestly, no. Don't really have any.
no problem. Yeah, we'll get some more from the mailbag as well. But Max, was there anything that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, before I do, I want to mention I really loved Freddie's drunk nephew comment. That'll be, I think, hilarious if Bobby can come and do a cameo and then have Jeremy be drunk nephew. I love that. But speaking of Jeremy, how familiar are you with Dropout as a platform?
So I was not familiar with Dropout prior to Jeremy getting casted on the show. Once I saw that he was going to be there, I started to watch it a decent amount, at least as many clips as that I can find. But yeah, I'm just like, I was so familiar with College Humor like back in the day, and I knew that this was sort of a branch off of them. But then I completely like forgot that this existed until I saw them again. Was there anything like, are you familiar with it? And is there anything that you took from watching that you can maybe give us some insight on?
I'd seen clips of Game Changer come up like on my TikTok and YouTube or whatever. Like I've seen that, but I didn't realize that it was part of this whole like independent streaming comedy network. So like learning that was cool. And I was curious, like if you were decently familiar, like would there be any Game Changer or Dropout cast members that you would think SNL would maybe want to pull from in the future if Jeremy is successful?
I don't know them enough to say that there's a specific one that would work just as well as Jeremy. I have seen that there's been like a lot of like very experienced sketch performers that you would have seen on like Comedy Bang Bang that have been on Dropout and in sketches. So I feel like the crossover there is tremendous. What's interesting is that I even remember like a few years back, there was like a Twitch channel, like Fuse or something, that was going to start their own like Saturday Night Live sketch type show. And I think like the show put like a kibosh on that, and they like maybe stepped in and were like, hey, like we don't want other sketch shows around. So I find it fascinating that like there is a little bit of a change now where they're starting to embrace the fact that other sketch shows exist and willing to pull from that talent pool, versus where like I think they were even like going back to like just out of COVID, and I think they were completely ignoring those people. Yeah, it's interesting. But Amanda, are you familiar at all with Dropout?
I am not familiar at all. I'm very familiar with Comedy Bang Bang, or I used to be.
Yeah.
No, I'm not familiar. Should I be? Should I familiarize myself?
Well, I think at least I will be after the season. Like, I think that I've watched as many clips as I can, but I think that if this is going to be the talent pool where we're going to start pulling from more, I mean, it's just one case, but if that is the case, I think it would be to our benefit to watch more. Especially because like I've argued for years that it should be more accessible for SNL fans to see where people are coming from to get onto the show. I think that makes the show more interesting. I think that people are more invested in Saturday Night Live because they're like, oh, I kind of know who this person is. Like, I know who Veronica, I've seen Jane, I've seen Marcelo or James Austin Johnson on TikTok. Like, and then they come into SNL versus SNL introducing you to people. I think it will only help the show in that way. And the truth is like most fans can't go to a Groundlings show and then like the night that the SNL, talent producers are there and know like, okay, they're looking for these specific people, or go to talent. I mean, Amanda, I know that we like talked in the summer a little bit about like there being certain like talents and showcases and things in New York, but you never really know which ones they're pulling from.
No, you only know after the fact, really. I mean, and that's like maybe part of the fun of it, but I definitely agree with you. We like the reality show aspect of the show. So I think that having a little bit more insight would be fun and would help us get invested. Although I do like speculating wildly with little to no understanding. So it's a trade-off.
Yeah. So I want to ask you guys a question that we got from our mailbag. This one came in from @dgriffin930. Said, do you think this feature cast could be the face of the show, similar to season 31 into 32? So we are covering season 31 on our Patreon right now. But that is, where we had just brought in Jason Sudeikis. We bring in Bill Hader and Andy Samberg at the start, and then Kristen Wiig. That is, maybe except for season 12, like the most legendary new cast of cast members that we got onto a show at one point. And then there's budget cuts, and we end up making them the faces of the show. Is it possible that we're on a 31 to 32 trajectory here, where these new faces, maybe Bo, if you want to put Ashley in that group as well, and Jane, like all these feature players, could they become the next stars of season 52? Marcus, what do you think?
It can really go either way, essentially. It really can go either way, I would say. But I mean, I would hope to be able to that to happen, but I say pretty much we could go either way, essentially. Maybe you can. It all depends on how well they do throughout the remaining of this season. So
it's too early, maybe.
It's a little bit too early because we're only like 3 weeks into the season, essentially. And although we have gotten some showcases featuring the feature play, essentially, it's only just like 3 episodes in, and we probably could see more than just that.
No, that's fair. All right, Max, what do you think?
I mean, Marcus just said, like, we're so early on, but also back in like March when I was on the Patreon show, you asked me if we could do a redo of that season 11 cold open where you're saving one cast member from a fire. Who would you pick? And I said, Ashley. I've been on that train since the beginning, so I'm going to stay on that train. And I think there is no reason why, if they new cast and if Ashley and Jane continue what they're doing, there's no reason to think that they can't be the face of the show by next year. I mean, it's early, but there's no reason to not think that, honestly, at this point.
Yeah, and I think put a pen in this, because I think we all feel like Ashley's off to an incredible start, and she's likely to maintain this and have an all-time great season here. But again, we're only 3 episodes in, so we'll see. I think the biggest thing to watch when it comes to this question and when it comes to Ashley is, who is Ashley's most frequent scene partner? If it is Andrew Dismukes, which I think is what we've seen so far for the through these first 3 weeks, Andrew is 4 years ahead of her as a cast member. So he's in year 6, she's in year 2, which means that it's great. They're probably going to be on the show, together another few years. But I would love to see if there are some new people who can match Ashley's energy and participate with her in sketches. Like when we saw Kristen Wiig have those moments, I mean, she had them, of course, with some veterans, with Fred and Will Forte and all of that. But when she got together with Bill Hader or Jason Sudeikis and they were doing the 2 a-holes, like that was like, oh wow, like these people together, that's interesting. So I think that, is it Ashley and Jeremy, like, do they become a thing at some point? And if that is a thing, I mean, that's when you could start to think about 31 to 32 once we start seeing those pairings start working together. But Max and Marcus, thank you guys for joining us here tonight. So great to catch up with you. Marcus, I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for me. Okay. I'm grateful to be back here second time. Yeah,
great job, and grateful to have you too, Marcus. And Max, really appreciate you joining us here tonight, buddy.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Max, I noticed you turned the game off behind you. I was trying to watch. And
I have a parlay going. Got to make sure that's important.
What is it? Was it Monday Night Football that you were watching tonight?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I got to catch up on that eventually. I got Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt playing in right now for me. But
okay. I have Debo.
All right. Should be a good night. So looking forward to catching up with you both sometime soon.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys. All right, Amanda, let's bring in our good friend Matt is here to join the party. So Matt, how are you?
Hey, thanks, John, Amanda. Nice to meet both. Well, meet Amanda. I've been on the show before with John, so thanks for having me on the show. I actually just turned off the World Series game, so that's why that's there. It's 1-0 Dodgers.
Sports.
By the way. It's 1-0 Dodgers. I actually have my Montreal Expos hat for you, John. So I
appreciate you there, brother. Yeah, that's awesome. My dad somehow became a Blue Jays fan. I don't know how he did it, but I guess as the only Canadian team, I can squint and see it, but it's hard for me as a Montrealer. But I understand. So I'll root for the Jays for my dad tonight. Yeah,
Sounds
but Matt,
good.
how are you doing? How do you feel about the start of season 51?
So I think it's about how I would have expected it to go. The first episode was uneven, but it's a show right after a big break, so I would have thought it would be uneven. Basically, I like the last sketch of the Bad Bunny episode, the El Chavo del Ocho sketch. I didn't know the show, but like I saw online like a split screen of like the show and the sketch that they did, and it was really spot on. So somebody there watched the show and did a really good job with that. But I thought it was kind of uneven, but that was to be expected. I thought the Amy Poehler episode was fantastic. And like you guys were saying, I don't think I'd put it in like top 50 all time or anything, but it was really, really good, and it was solid writing all the way around, which is really good. And then the Sabrina Carpenter episode was weird. It was okay. It was fine. I thought Sabrina was good. I thought the writing kind of ran out of jokes. When you have a fart sketch and a singing dishwasher sketch, I think that kind of tells you that you're running out of jokes. But other than that, again, to be expected, you have the third of a three plot of 3 episodes. You're going to get that. So about what I expected. So it's going okay.
Yeah, I guess if you're looking for fart sketches, the third show in a run is probably the place to go.
It's always the weird one. It's always the weirder of the 3, I think. And when you have a 3 show pattern, the third one is always the one where they just throw crap at the wall and see what sticks.
Right. And I don't mind that sometimes. And I
Yeah.
thought they actually, they stuck everything this time. But can I go back to your thoughts on the Bad Bunny episode? Because I think that's an interesting place. We got a great question, Matt, from one of our listeners, Kaylee Silverstein, who sent in a question. She actually wrote in 2 parts. So I'll take the first one first, which was, why do you think the Bad Bunny episode didn't pop the way we thought it would? So that was the premiere episode. So I'll start there. So you said that it wasn't exactly great for you either. Why do you think it didn't work?
I mean, first of all, anytime you have a huge time off, things just aren't as well oiled as they are usually in a regular, throughout the regular part of the run of the show. I actually, when I was reading the Lorne Michaels biography, they had said that NBC wanted Paul Simon to be the very first host, but Lorne didn't because he knew the first show was going to be a little bit rocky, and he didn't want to have Paul Simon as the guy who hosted a very uneven episode. So he had George Carlin host, and then had Paul Simon host the second episode. And that was, it ended up being basically an all music episode anyway, but that's beside the point. So I think with that, and then also with Bad Bunny, English is not his first language. So it could be a little bit trickier to get him in different situations and have him, he's not an actor. He's, it's a little bit trickier to have him do the different sketches. He did fine. I mean, it was okay. And I like the last sketch. Like I said, I thought he did really, really well. But I think it was just uneven just because of that. And I think, I wish they could do something to not make it so uneven at the beginning of seasons, because that seems to happen where it's the beginning of season. I don't know how you really get around that though.
I'll give you a very easy way to get around it, is that I think that Bad Bunny was the wrong choice.
Yeah, well, yes.
Yeah, because he was so good in both the 50th and the finale of last season in his sketches that he totally earned the opportunity to host a second time. But because of it being a second language show for him, and there was a lot of new cast members, it was like a really weird fit to try and put them together. And I wish I saw it before, but like as I was watching it unfold, I was like, well, of course they're just going to lean on Marcelo tonight and, Chloe and Sarah, because how can any of the new people find space here when they're trying to build a show around a host that already will have a little bit more difficulty than your average host hosting the show? That for me, I think was where it was rough. And I think like you go back to the days of when like Steve Martin would host a premiere of Saturday Night Live, like back in the 70s, it was because like they knew what they were getting. They knew they could trust it. And I think that was the way to go with this thing, was like, we needed someone who, I'm not saying it had to be Amy, but like someone who really got Saturday Night Live. Amanda, what do you think? Do you think that was what affected the premiere and the start of the season?
I'm not really sure, because we've seen premieres from other people. And I think that Bad Bunny, notwithstanding his, that English is not his first language, I still think he has like pretty incredible comedic timing. And I sometimes wonder and worry that he is pigeonholed more than he needs to be in this. I don't know if it's like they're back from the summer and they're kind of scrambling to put sketches together, and so they're going with sketches that they know that he wants to do, that he suggested himself, and like that they had maybe on the back burner from like his previous episode or appearances, or things that Marcelo has worked on. I don't know. I feel like the first episode is always a little bit funky no matter what. You have 5 new cast members, you have a turnover in writing staff. There's just things in the building that have turned over. I think that we're following, the 50th. I keep wanting to say the 51st, following the 50th season. I don't know. I'm a little bit of a Bad Bunny SNL apologist. I'm definitely a Bad Bunny stan generally, but a Bad Bunny on SNL apologist. So
I don't think they did any favors with the two sketches that were pretty much exactly the same that were back to back. I don't think they really did him very good favors with that. And like you said, I thought his last sketch was fantastic, and that shows he does have comedic timing. Like he can be funny. It's just I don't think the writing did him any favors.
No, you're right. It's Bad Bunny to me. When he was in that pre-tape in the ScarJo finale from last year, was like some of the like best work of. Do you know what I'm talking about, John?
No, I totally agree with you. I also think like the sketch that he did with Marcelo and Ego was fantastic as well in the finale where they were at the bar. Like I don't.
Oh yes.
Yeah, I don't think that there was any. I will not put the premiere at any fault of Bad Bunny. I think that the writing was pretty mid, and like again, we have to keep in mind SNL also hires 7 new writers. They had some really experienced writers like Brian Tucker, who wasn't in the building. It's just like, I'm not saying that they couldn't pull it off, but I think they were running uphill to make a great episode for the premiere. And like, I'm at fault for this too. Like I get super hyped up for the premiere. It's like really exciting that SNL is finally back after months. And I do think it's like hard to go on here and be like, hey guys, like just so you know, this weekend's probably gonna suck, but then week 2 will be great. It's like you can't do that, right? So I think we're all hoping that the premiere will be great.
At some point, I think we need to make a note to talk to a writer in the next opportunity that we have about kind of what it's like gearing up for the new season and just how like the process of like starting sketches in the summer works, because I think that it's like they're kind of stuck in this tricky place where topical things are happening, but by the time SNL comes back around, it's stale, it's old. And I feel like what they could be doing, and I wonder if they are, is just thinking about like high concept, like almost like vintage style sketches that they could just slot in and like really fine tune the writing over the summer. I guess they're like chilling and like working on their other projects and like touring, so it's not like they're just like sitting around and like writing so that they have a backlog of sketches and concepts to pitch come fall. But I do wonder how that works, because sometimes I'm like, why don't you have a bunch of like banger sketches lined up that have come to you?
It's never been that way.
It's never been that way. But I would like to pick somebody's brain as to why that can't be, because it strikes me as possible.
I think the Frankenstein sketch that they did with Sabrina Carpenter, that pre-tape, I think they said that had been written over the summer, or that they had done that, or they had filmed that before the season even started. So they had that, I guess, in the can. But yeah,
they did. That one, I think, was slotted for dress in week 1, but they didn't have time to show it in dress, so it was just cut completely. It was then shown in dress in week number 2, and then made it to air in week number 3. Very similar to, in the 2000s, they would film a lot of commercials before the season and then air them sometime in the first 3 weeks of the show. But Matt, is there anything else that you want to talk about from the season? Any questions you have for your Amanda or I?
I think the only question I had was, I can't think of a current athlete who could host right now. Other than maybe, not counting somebody like Travis Kelce who's already hosted, or LeBron or somebody who's already hosted. Like, I can't think of any current athlete who would host. Shohei Ohtani, I don't think he's a guy who would host. Steph Curry, maybe. I don't know. But I can't think of any. So can you think of any current athlete who can host?
I think that Steph was the guy like a few years back when the Warriors and the Cavs were like going to a bunch of finals. I mean, even when he beat the Celtics like in 2022, I think that was like probably the time to get Steph.
It's tough though because you can't really have a basketball player because the basketball season is so long now. It starts in the beginning of October, whereas when Michael Jordan hosted, he hosted in the end of September. And the season didn't start until the end. No, when Michael Jordan hosted in 91, that season didn't start until November 1st or early November. So you could have him host in the end of September and preseason hasn't started yet. Whereas now preseason's already started in the middle of September. You can't have a basketball player now because the whole season is during the SNL season.
Right. And then LeBron hosted the season 33 premiere. If LeBron retires, is there like a thing there? I think when Brady retired, a lot of people were talking about that. Peyton, obviously, people were advocating to return. But as far as like new athletes are concerned, I can't necessarily picture one. I think that Caitlin Clark was probably a shoo-in at some point, and then she's sort of been hurt.
I don't think she's funny. I just don't.
I don't think that's a prerequisite for athletes to host the show.
Fair enough. But I don't think it'd be a good show. I'll put it that way.
Fair enough. Yeah. I do think that if Caitlin Clark won a WNBA championship, I think that she is then a shoo-in to host the show. We've already seen her on Weekend Update, so I feel that is something that they would certainly consider. They don't really have hockey players on the show since Gretzky, so that's not going to happen. Football players, I think that if Heidi was still there, there's a chance you would see Mahomes eventually, but I think that's probably gone at this point. And I can't see another football player right now.
I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't think so. I mean, could he appear if Haley Steinfeld was on the show as a musical guest? Like that's the type of thing I think you can consider. But yeah, I don't know. I can't see one right now. But if I think it's a good question, if I think of one, I'll bring it up at some point. But Matt, thank you for joining us here tonight. I do really appreciate you.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for the continued support. Hope to talk to you soon.
Sure.
Thanks, buddy. Okay, Amanda, how you doing so far?
I could have named athlete. First I was like, I can't name a single current athlete, not even one that could host the show, just full stop. But then I was like, what about like Olympians, like the U.S., like the women's? And stuff. Yeah. Jordan Childs is on Dancing with the Stars right now, and they
just haven't done it since Phelps, and I just don't think and that went horribly. So I just can't see them doing that. No. Even though it would be like, I think we talked about it at least a couple years ago, but it's a good question. All right, let's bring in somebody new. I always love getting to speak to new people on the show. I don't believe he's ever been on the show before. So let's bring in Dakota. Dakota, how are you?
Hello, good. How are you?
Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us here tonight.
Thank you. Yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah, well, welcome to the SNN. Always love meeting new people. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you found SNL and us?
Oh, geez. How far back do I go?
You can give us the cliff notes, I guess.
Yeah.
I want to know how far back if you go with us.
Well, I started watching you guys probably the summer right before season 50. So I was watching the Greatest Host countdown and kind of got into that. And then I saw all your stuff on like Instagram and social media stuff. And I followed there, and then I followed on YouTube and watched everything through season 50. And then I just joined the Patreon for the 20 years later show that you've been doing.
How have you been enjoying it?
It's been really good. Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. And it's nice to go back and watch those shows again. It's been a nice look back. And just enjoying what you guys have been doing. And when the sign-up sheet came on, got that email, I thought, what the heck, I'll give this a shot. So here I am.
Cool. And how long have you been a fan of Saturday Night Live?
Geez, I mean, I've always had kind of knowledge of it since, I was, little, but probably I think I really got into it when I was like 10 or 11. There was a VHS tape of the best of 96 and 97 season, which is just a solid, great year. And that just got me hooked right there. And then started watching like the show weekly as it aired. Was it season 27? It was 9/11 when they came back from 9/11, whatever season that was.
Season 27, yeah.
Yeah. And then I've been watching ever since.
That's awesome. Well, Dakota,
Yeah.
how have you felt about season 51?
I think it's been pretty solid for the most part. I mean, I kind of echo most people's sentiments with, the season premiere being maybe not as good as we all would have hoped. But I think the Amy Poehler show was probably one of the best shows I've seen in at least a couple of years. Just solid top to bottom. And the Sabrina Carpenter show was really good too, like for a first-time host and doing double duty. In addition to that, I think she didn't even break a sweat. She nailed it.
Yeah, I thought she was great, honestly. Is there anything that you want to talk about from the season, or did you have any questions for Amanda or I?
No, not really. I've been trying to kind of rack my brain around it, trying to come up with something good and insightful to ask. But
no problem.
really
We have a lot
nothing.
of questions, so I can you can help us answer some questions.
Yeah, let's do that for sure.
Okay, perfect. So I have the second part of the question that Kaylee sent in earlier, where she asked, when was the last time we had a feature player pop off so early before Ashley? So I know you said, Dakota, that you have been watching the show for over 20 years now. So
God,
do you remember did you remember any buzz like Ashley's?
I don't know if I remember buzz per se. I just remember when Cecily first came on the scene and she was a featured player and she was getting, a lot of airtime, a lot of good characters like the girl you don't want to talk to at a party or whatever we call her. I can't remember.
Yeah, the girl you wish you hadn't started a conversation with.
Exactly. And yeah, she really jumped to mind. And then, she got Weekend Update real quick. I mean, that was kind of short-lived, but still, it seems like she got in the good graces of the audience and everybody at the show real quick. So it's kind of what Ashley's reminding me a little bit of. And Heidi as well, because, I mean, they're both groundlings.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that there's definitely something to that. I would say, though, that Ashley's situation is one of the more unique ones I've seen in my SNL lifetime, because at least I haven't seen it. Like, I haven't seen this much positivity around a new cast member in so long. I think I even asked in our patron Discord at one point, like, have you guys ever seen no bad mouthing or no hatred towards the cast member? It's incredible because like SNL cast members, there's such a variety of opinions on all of them, but I think the universal praising of Ashley is so fascinating to me, that she's so well liked. I think it's really helped that she didn't have a following coming in and we're all falling in love with her on the show, which I think really does help something like this. And yeah, I mean, I think that it's probably a generational thing for me, Amanda, because even people like Kate came in and everyone was excited because they saw her as the next Kristen Wiig. It was just such an easy 1-for-1 with Kristen departing a few episodes after Kate joins the cast, that I think that what we're looking at here is more of Kristen or Will Ferrell, who I know Will had some haters at the beginning, but for the most part, people were very excited about what we could potentially see from him. That's how big we're talking here, Amanda. What do you think?
I know that. Yeah, I completely agree. I compare it to the Marcelo kind of rise, but I think that a lot of that was people were just obsessed with Marcelo as a person. People were thirsting after Marcelo. It was a whole combination of things. With Ashley, it feels like everyone is truly just obsessed with how electric she is as a sketch performer and how consistently she elevates the material no matter what she's given. I can't think of anything. I mean, definitely not since we've been covering it, not since I've been on the show has there been anything comparable. I almost feel like we have to hold ourselves back when we're covering about it and talking about it. And I don't know if Ashley listens to the show or, if she gets wind of it, but it's almost we're jinxing it for her because we're so enthusiastic and so we're kind of wow, the sky's the limit. What will she do next? And I'm sure that's a lot of pressure, but she seems to be handling it really well. And I think that she's just a natural, and the sense that I get from Ashley that I don't know that I've gotten from anyone ever since I've been watching the show, for 15 years, consistently, is that she's really dedicated to the craft. She just wants to, and I don't know her and I don't want to get parasocial, but the sense that I get from the way that she presents herself, from the way that she markets herself on social media, or which is in that she doesn't really at all, is that she's really just there to do her job, and her job is being like a fucking phenomenal sketch performer. And it's like really refreshing. And I think that because of that, she's so easy to root for because it feels so pure, like such an ascent that is so wholesome and like just kind of like this is what this show is all about. And there's no TikTok, it's just like pure talent, and I'm like so here for it and excited to follow along.
I think it's that, but it's also not just the talent thing. Like it's that she feels like like she's part of the fabric of the show, which is that this show was always designed to make their own stars. And I feel that because she didn't have this like rabid following coming into the show, she's like, there's a little bit of ownership we take over her rise as SNL fans. And this is all her work. So I'm not saying that we are responsible for it, but just to be clear, like I think that this is watching like Chevy Chase go into stardom. Like there is something similar here to what all of the greats that we've seen in the past do, which is find their way to become fantastic on the show.
Right. That it's not even just about coming in with a following or not. It's that I think that we see people become stars in their own right, and that like the Bowens and Chloe's, plenty of people know them but don't watch SNL. Ashley seems like right now like our like I don't know, like force the super fans to obsess over for the time being. At least it feels like it's like within the four walls that we operate in.
Yes, there's something it does. And there's something to the fact of like, if you're not watching Saturday Night Live, you don't know how good Ashley Padilla is. But other people on the show, they're like, oh yeah, I know Marcelo, he's great. But they may not watch the show or watch it in the way that we do. And that is because of his following that came into the show. So I think there's something to the fact of like, there's just something so genuine about the way that she's rising to stardom. And I don't think she listens to all of our podcasts, but I have spoken to Ashley, and she's very appreciative of all the support. So that's for sure. Dakota, do you want to jump in on this conversation?
I mean, I don't really have much to add. You guys kind of summed it up pretty good. I think she's just kind of built for this show. She came from the Groundlings, which is probably the closest one-to-one comparison in terms of like, improv and sketch groups. And this was kind of the goal, and she got her job, and she's there and putting in the work and doing fabulously.
Yeah, I would agree. We also have this great question from Fred, who says, realistically, how much do you think Ashley's success is due to no Heidi and Ego? Do any roles come to mind that she would not have gotten had they been there? So this is another factor here. Obviously, there's a lot of people who have been responding to some of our posts that we have been putting up, saying that the reason that she's had so much screen time and so many appearances is because of Heidi and Ego not being there. I sort of think, Dakota, that this is like the natural order, that people leave the show as veterans and the new people come in, and this has happened all the time. But how do you feel about that?
I mean, it's kind of par for the course, exactly as you said. The veterans leave, and then other people got to come in and pick up from where they left off. Like there's parts that Ashley probably would not have gotten if Heidi was still there, like the Shop TV host from last week, and maybe some other couples stuff and whatever. But then like the sketch last week with her in the office and the fart, and the principal sketch and stuff like that, which I guess she kind of wrote herself too, possibly. But I think it's partially to do with the veterans leaving, but I think she would have worked herself in no matter what, just with the quality of the stuff that that's being written for her and that she's writing.
Amanda, I do think that maybe the whole, Ashley Dismukes pairing that we're getting of husband and wife, that we've seen in several sketches, maybe those roles don't go to Ashley. I mean, beyond just what Dakota brought up with the Shop TV, but for the most part, like I have to wonder if like at least Ego was coming back. I don't know that we're getting much change here, but I think that Heidi, that you could definitely say that there are some roles that would have gone to Heidi. I also just wonder again, like if this just naturally was going to happen.
Yeah, I think that we could feel it starting to happen last season, even amongst the craziness. I think that, I mean, the Dismukes pairing, I don't think of that as like a Heidi slot. I think that Ashley and Dismukes have like a really interesting chemistry that feels kind of new and fresh. Like I think of Dismukes as pairing really well with JJ and some other people, but I feel like this pairing with Ashley seems fresh to me and not like she's slotting in for someone. I mean, she reminds me of Heidi sometimes, but I think that as she develops and as we get to know her better as an SNL performer, that we will compare them less than we do now. And I think it's just a natural comparison because I think that they're both such unbelievable actresses and standout actresses as cast members. And so it's natural to see them in the same roles, which is kind of why I want to see a lot more of Ashley on Update, because I think that Heidi really showcased her acting on Update, and I want to see what Ashley's Update persona is and like what she can do when she's really just like herself, like playing a fully embodied character, which she kind of does when she's in a sketch anyway. Like I think definitely in the fart sketch, which is hysterical because I would have never thought that the fart sketch would be like maybe my favorite sketch of the season so far. That I would have never believed you had you told me that, but I feel like it was because it was really just her having this insane character and everyone around her kind of just supporting that development and that showcase, and which is like something that Update can do when you're playing off, Jost or Che. So I want to see her do that and see if she shines in the way that Heidi and Ego famously lit up, the Update desk. I want to see Ashley there. So what was the question?
No, you answered it. I mean, Ego, one of the greatest Update performers of all time. But I think Ashley did a great job last season as the Joanne Fabrics. We'll see if that does continue at some point this season. I think it'll be fascinating to watch. But Dakota, thank you for joining us here on the show tonight. Great first time on the show.
Yeah, no problem. My pleasure. Yeah, it's been fun.
Come back.
Nice to, yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'll come back anytime you have me. Yeah, and good to meet you guys. Yeah, it's been a real treat.
Great to meet you and appreciate your support of the SNL.
Yeah.
So great to talk to you and looking forward to the next time.
Right on. Take care, guys.
Thanks. Bye. Okay, Amanda, we got two very special people joining us up next. Very excited to bring in first. My man Max is here. Max, how are you?
Doing good. Can you hear me?
I can hear you great. Great to have you back on the show, buddy.
Cool. Glad to be back.
Yeah, and joining us as well is our friend Victor is here. Victor, how are you?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yes.
Yes. All right.
Yes.
There we go.
We did it, guys. So great to have you both on the show. Max, I'm going to start
Good
with
to see
you.
a face to the handle.
Yes,
thank you.
Good to see the face
Victor,
to the handle. Cool.
King of the SNN chat.
As well as you, Max. As well as you.
Max, appreciate you joining us here tonight. I would love to know how you're feeling about the season so far.
Feeling good. I've never been the biggest Amy Poehler fan.
Okay.
So the second episode kind of left me cold. But I loved the cold opening and I loved the lawyer sketch. I mean, it reminded me a lot of some of the old kind of wacky, like throw everything at the kitchen sink sketches of the 90s and the 2000s. And I love how the feature players are going. And I'm glad. I was worried about Jane Wickline after the Bad Bunny episode. But I think in the last couple episodes, she's starting to show her strengths as kind of the kind of the sardonic type of character. I loved her in the Podcast Boys as well as the Middle School Grind music video. She just adds something special to every role that she's in, and I'm glad that she's being used, because the Bad Bunny episode was kind of a scare at first when she was completely shut out for the season premiere.
Yeah, that is interesting. Victor, I would love to know from you as well how you're feeling about the start of the season. Here, Victor, sorry, I'm just going to unmute you and then go ahead.
Okay. So far, I'm feeling very positive on the season. A hot take I said, I believe, one time in the live chat was actually already feel the season is better than season 50 because even though season 50 was like a fun special as it was all season, I feel like the writing just wasn't really the greatest for me. And again, going into the season, because the Bad Bunny episode, I also didn't care too much for. At least I was probably still higher on it than a lot of people, but rewatching it, I felt it was very it was better. And I could talk about that actually sketch all day. And Amy's episode, I'm probably a tad bit lower on it than a lot of people, even though I did still enjoy it because I felt that was the right way to use um, both a host with a lot of cameos as well as still bring in the cast and use them well. It's like a nice mix. And I feel like that's how every episode that has a lot of cameos should be. And in Sabrina's episode, another hot take I really said in the live chat was not only do I feel like it's the best episode of the season so far, I could honestly see myself both seeing Sabrina be a top 5 host this season as well as the episode in general. I thought it was like that great. I always feel like it was the right way to use someone from the younger crowd, and as a fellow young one, it gets a thumbs up from me. And also loved her as a host, and I felt like we was gonna see like a lot of Marcelo and Sabrina, but we didn't a whole lot. And the sketch between her and Veronica I thought was nice, and it before.
Victor, you may be cutting in and out
saw a lot of her
at the end, but I think we got most of that in. So I think you're good. I think we got most of that in. So thank you, Victor. I really loved hearing your thoughts on it, and also listening to Mark Malkoff and Kirsten on Mike's show last Wednesday for By the Numbers talking about Sabrina definitely made me feel even better about it because I think they were all really praising how great Sabrina was as a double duty host. And I have to say that I feel like all of the hosts this season have been used really well. Yes, we have our qualms with the Bad Bunny episode, but I'm really happy with the host. I think the host picks for the next run are also really strong. So I think for host this season, nothing to complain about there. Max, I also love that you mentioned that lawyer sketch because for me, I think that is probably my favorite sketch of the season so far. So there's a lot of things that I'm very excited about here. Max, did you have any questions for us about anything to do with season 51?
Well, I was wondering the Domingo sketch. I thought, and I don't know if anyone would agree with me in the chat, but I was waiting for Judge to come and freeze as Trump and do a meta of possibly running a sketch into the ground, talking about Domingo, Cacoldry, things like that. I don't know. I kept expecting Judge to show up, and he never did. And I'm wondering, do you think that we will have more of a mix of cold opens that won't be just fold into politics? Because I can't remember the last cold open that wasn't politically based. I mean, I'm sure there were a couple, but that shocked me that they did a Domingo cold open to open up Sabrina Carpenter's episode.
I think it was just a very strategic decision, but Amanda, I would love to get you in on this conversation. Do you think we're going to get more non-political cold opens in season 51?
I hope so. I don't have a problem with Domingo being the cold open. If you're going to do it, I like when they do something different with the cold open. I liked when they did the alien sketch for the cold open for Kate's last show. I like when they deliberately put something that's not normally in that spot because I think it keeps it fresh. I don't know if we're going to... I don't think that they have... So we've only had 2 political cold opens then this season. I don't know if they've found their footing in a post-election and beginning of Trump second term era. I don't know who they've cast, as like the players that are big in the political arena now. I personally was very much hoping for a cold open that covered the New York mayoral debate. I'm from New York, so I forget that it's a national television show and not a New York-centric show.
We play in all 50 states, Amanda.
I don't know. Where are you guys located, and did you happen to see any? The debate, for context, was basically an SNL sketch. Like, as Trump often is on a week-by-week basis, they basically write themselves. So I was really kind of waiting for them to play some of these, like a Curtis Lewa. You know, we've had plenty of Andrew Cuomo impressions on the show over time. I'm disappointed that the show hasn't not come up with a Zohran Mamdani. That is something that I feel very strongly about, but I don't know if that's just a New York thing and I'm just sick of the national politics and feeling inspired by the local politics. I'm not sure. So I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on what kinds of political cold open you'd want to see, or do you want, yeah.
I mean, I really like that for the second one, they went with the Kristi Noem. They didn't go with Trump in 2 times in a row, because I know sometimes, particularly in the Alec Baldwin years, it was like every year, every week, a Trump cold open. And there's so many, like you say, in politics, the New York the New York election, RFK. There's so many things you can do in the political world, and historically, the cold open was when they really targeted politics. So I would like it if they open it more than just the Trump cold open.
Yeah, Victor, I'd love to know what you think. Do you think that they should have attacked the New York mayoral debate?
I feel like they probably shouldn't, because the show doesn't always have a great way of covering politics. I mean, I know that could differ from one's opinion or not, but kind of to overall answer the question of how, like, what I would want the show to do, I would just kind of like a nice mix, maybe something completely random, not even topical, just kind of do something crazy, just maybe like have like a cold open where all the new cast members are like so excited and something bad happens to them, something like that. Or Domingo as the cold open I didn't hate at all, because I'm probably neutral towards Domingo, unlike a lot of people, towards like a lot of people, and I feel it's probably a good decision to just kind of get out the way for the episode instead of just having us like wait for it all over and over again. But I definitely feel like cold opens just being a variety of different things, it definitely will make the show more fresh.
I agree. And look, I think that maybe what's going to happen is, I mean, it would be a shame if SNL didn't have a Manning cast coming up. So I think that is probably the way to go with episode 4. Episode 5, that's post mayoral election. Assuming Mamdani is elected, I think that's probably the place to bring him on the show.
Trump also does not stop fucking talking about him. So it's like there is a link.
No, I get that, but I'm just saying, and it is
F-bomb.
Yeah, it is a little bit rare for SNL. I don't think they've ever actually covered a mayoral debate before for New York. I think it's been like they've done Giuliani things. I think like the closest thing I could think of is like they once did like a Giuliani press conference where his like kid was climbing all over him, played by Chris Farley back in the day. And obviously Bloomberg's been on the show, Giuliani's been on the show, Ed Koch on the show, but I just don't think that is the type of thing that they like cover with the understanding that the full country like gets what's going on all the time.
But Sarah was just on Update doing a piece about like the outer borough or like bridge and tunnel people fear mongering about Mamdani.
Yes, but if you're if you're in random state X, like I think you can understand that character better than you would the intricacies of like one person at a podium talking to another person at a podium. Like I guess what I can say is that like even though I don't necessarily agree with it, I can understand why they didn't go in that direction. Our friend Robe in the chat said I could have done a Jeopardy sketch for the New York City debate. So I think there is a lot of options that you could do here. Victor, I would love to give you the opportunity also to tell us if you had any questions for us or if there's anything else from the season that you want to talk about.
Okay, so I actually had a question, but because I actually am in like a bunch of different SNL like related things, and I was curious if someone else had a question because I thought it'd be like nice to me to ask them and to ask you guys.
Sure.
So a buddy of mine who seems to be kind of like a spicy little fellow, and he kind of asked like two different kind of more towards the negative side of questions, and he asked me. I asked the first one where. Was there, from Amy Poehler's episode, was there a character you are either surprised or glad they didn't bring back?
Was there an Amy character? I mean, I was surprised I know they just did one of the 50th. I was a little surprised they didn't do Bronx Beat because I knew Maya was there. So I figured like that was an opportunity to maybe do that. I'm generally a fan of Amy's characters. So for me, like there's not one that I would have seen and been like very upset about seeing. I think, Caitlin would have been a fan favorite, even if you don't have Horatio there. So that's probably the one I would have looked forward to. Max, any 2 cents on this?
No, I agree. She was one of my favorite of the Amy Poehler characters. And even if you don't have, you could have someone else play the, what was it? Rod, Todd. It's been so long since I've seen them. Rick. Yeah. No, I mean, I was kind of like, that was like the one character that always like hit my heart whenever I saw it. Rick.
Yeah. Well, I do think that what we ended up getting from Amy was pretty good. I would have liked some sort of recurring character piece, but I'm pretty happy with it overall. So really appreciate you both joining us on the show here tonight. So great to catch up with the two of you.
Thank
Max.
you. And Amanda, you're a New Yorker?
I'm in Brooklyn, New York. Yes.
If I can plug, my film will be screening at the Memorial International Film Festival on the 15th.
Sure.
At the Quad Cinemas.
Great.
That's amazing. Well, congrats, Max, on that. Really appreciate you joining us. Great to hear from you. And Victor, so glad to get to talk to you. Everything worked tonight. So we got almost everything that you said here. Appreciate you joining us. Thanks for always supporting the show.
Yeah, I just want to quickly plug my Twitter. As you can see, it's I'm Alive 419. I mainly talk about SNL, of course. I also occasionally talk about John, Big Brother.
Oh yeah. Did you like Big Brother 27?
Yes, the first season of that show was crazy. My winner picked out runner-up, and that was a crazy season. And I also want to plug my Twitter. It's also I'm Alive. First of all, if you knew me as that name, you're an OG. But yeah, it's also I'm Alive, and it's but instead of 419, it's 5 zeros afterwards. And a friend of mine wanted me to show like a very quick video. I'll just show the video of it, but it's like a long fellow. I don't know if you can see that or not.
Oh, very cool. That's awesome. Yeah. Hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to Michael at some point soon here on the show. But
yes.
Great to get to catch up with both of you, and such a great job tonight. So good job, Victor. Good job, Max.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Victor.
Nice to see you both. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you. All right, Amanda, let's keep the show going. We got some great patrons coming in with us next. So very excited to talk to. First up, my man Dan is here. Dan, how are you?
John, Amanda, how you guys doing?
Doing great.
Dan.
Great to get to speak to you. And of course, my
Thank you for having me.
Worth is here. Casey, how are you?
Hey.
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, John. And thanks for it's great to get to talk about the new season, and it's great to get to meet you for the first time, Dan. So let's just get
nice
right
to meet
into
you,
it.
sir.
Let's jump in. All right, Dan, I'm going to start with you. How are you feeling about season 51 so far?
I am optimistic. I don't think the season has hit its stride yet, but I think that's the good news because we already had some solid episodes. Bad Bunny, we kind of know what to expect because especially since we have seen so much of him in the last couple of seasons. I think he held his own, especially with English being his second language. That's always impressive to see his stage presence and his line delivery being as good as it is. Amy Poehler, I mean, I don't think there's anything I can really add that hasn't been said already. I think it was a great episode. The Rudemans, I've watched it several times, and I don't know if I like it, but I'm fascinated by it. And
cool.
Sabrina Carpenter, I thought was great, and my dog didn't behave. I'm so sorry. And
A big dog night here on the show.
I know. I even said in the chat, like, I'm jealous when other patrons have dogs that behave when they're podcasting. But
Look at that.
It's so perfect.
Oh, see, Amanda's just stunned.
Yeah.
Lola.
There you
She's
go.
asleep.
All right, Lola's being great.
I almost changed into a T-shirt with "Hold in Solidarity," by the way, but then someone else did it.
Well, those are some good thoughts. Casey, what about you? How are you feeling about the season so far?
I'm feeling optimistic. I see some good signs, maybe faint signs of progress, but see, the start of a season can usually be pretty rocky, and any season SNL didn't really come into its own until December. So give it till Christmas, naysayers, before you write the show off. But yeah, I think the only thing holding the show back is that we've got two musician hosts, and only one of them's double duty. But when you get a pop star, you kind of have to craft the show around their image and play to their fans now. But Amy Poehler was a solid episode that showed the most promise. And I mean, yeah, she's at a point with a lot of alumni where when you see them host, you don't really care about recurring characters. I mean, the only one they could have done was Bronx Beat, and they did that in the 50th, so it would have felt like overkill. But yeah, and most of all, I'm glad to see that the show places the amount of trust in its newest hires of featured players as much as it does, especially Ashley, who's had a year to get her footing. And and I'm glad to see that they trust Jeremy and Tommy to be prominent in the show, even if it's just picking up the slack as far as straight man political roles now. And I mean, Sarah and I'm sorry,
Chloe.
Well, not Sarah or Chloe. Veronica and Ashley. Yeah, Veronica and Ashley. I think they're going to be picking up a lot more slack, because I think they're going to be counted on to, sort of fill the void left by Heidi leaving, as far as like the women trusted to carry the show on their acting chops. I mean, to fill the ego void, they may have to actually promote the black female writers they hired, but they could do that. And Cam Patterson, even though he came from the world of Kill Tony, I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt, just because, let's say, as far as what slurs I was concerned about him saying on the show, the N-word was pretty far down that list. But I don't see him as someone who wants to, and I mean, Shane Gillis already said a couple of those slurs a year and a half ago. I don't want that to be a recurring thing. And I don't see Cam as someone automatically willing to, come out the gate bringing sort of that punching down sensibility to the show. So,
and I think we addressed that on week one with him, so we were able to sort of pass that, I think, at this point, which was part of the benefit of having that on update. So I think that was good. Casey, I just also want to ask you. You said, for any of the naysayers, wait until at least Christmas. Are you seeing a lot of negativity about this season? Because I feel like, for me, at least in the circles that I'm hanging out with talking about SNL, it seems that there's more positive about season 51 than we've had in a while.
I mean, people were, they didn't trash the Bad Bunny and Sabrina Carpenter episodes. They were pretty down on him. Bad Bunny, every season premiere now has that shaking off the cobwebs feel, and to cover that up, they have to comment on everything that happened during the summer throughout the middle of the show. And there was kind of some pacing due to the language barrier, but that's to be expected. And Sabrina Carpenter, I think most people just most people were hard on it because it opened with a Fourth Domingo sketch, and then a monologue that was and then a sketch where all the women play 13-year-old boys hosting a podcast, and then JAJ's Trump shows up, which that got to me too. I'm pretty on record as not being a Domingo fan, but the rest of the episode gave us some pretty solid stuff that, you know, balanced it out. And yeah, it's just the thing of, you know, crafting the show toward fans of a specific artist. So now that we've got a comedian and a friend of the show actor and an actor who you know, seems like they're gonna do great in November, I'm confident the show will find its footing and just gain some stability. So it's just kind of a rocky start to the season because
I like
a lot
that,
of
though.
pop star hosts at once, but we'll get over it.
I like that. I think there's a lot of stuff to look forward to in November. Dan, do you have any questions for us, or is there anything that you want to talk about?
I actually want to follow up on the idea that so much of the slack that Ashley's picking up now is because of Heidi's departure. John, I know you know Heidi a little bit. You have a little bit of like inside intel. Can you tell us whether or not Heidi knew that last season was her last season? Because I had a theory about it earlier.
I cannot. I think
Okay.
that just out of respect for my relationship with
Of
Heidi,
course.
I'm going to let her tell that story when she
Of course.
wants to do that. But I hope that she will come on here, and I hope that we'll get to continue to.
Oh yeah, and
hear from her.
yeah, and I wasn't trying to like pull out,
No,
but
it's not you, Dan. It's a totally reasonable and respectful question. I just, I've Heidi. I would not be sitting in this chair if it wasn't for Heidi. So for me,
Understood.
I owe a lot to her, and I just want to give her whenever she wants to talk about it. I'll let her talk about it. but something to watch for.
and she deserves to.
Heidi's going to
And-
be on Ego's podcast this week, so I don't know if that'll be.
Oh hell yeah! I can't wait to hear that. No, I just remember last year with the Shane Gillis episode, just the seed that was planted in my head that it might be our last season was in the divorced dad sketch. Ashley played the exasperated ex-wife instead of Heidi, and I noticed that immediately. And my immediate first thought was, "Oh, it's Heidi's last season." Like they're prepping Ashley for like certain Heidi roles, but she is absolutely killing it. Like I'm so excited to see what she does.
Yeah, and Heidi, I believe, would totally understand me as an analyst viewing the show as it is, which is that I don't believe that the show would want to even consider not having Heidi there if they didn't have Ashley waiting in the wings. So clearly this is something that the show feels pretty good about, knowing that Ashley is able to take a lot of those Heidi roles regardless of how that all developed. So I think it's a totally fair question, and happy to talk about it to the best of as I can, and hopefully
I appreciate it
here as well. Of course. Casey, what about you? Anything you want to touch on?
I think I've pretty much said all I wanted to say, and cool. I'll just add that I wasn't saying that they brought in Ashley to replace Heidi. I was just saying that Ashley's probably going to be counted on, at least by the fans, to take up the mantle of, you know, the female lead of the cast, because Chloe and Sarah are the most senior women and aren't quite there yet in terms of having the, you know, acting chops that Heidi had out of the gate and Ashley's shown out of the gate. So it's going to be not so much a lot of pressure, but a lot of eyes on Heidi and possibly Veronica to see what else they're going to do this season to balance out the female side of the cast.
So I want to take this question that we got from J_Stalder, who wrote in to ask, how do you think the absence of Ego and Heidi is affecting the season so far? So we did address a lot of the topics around this question, but Amanda, just to bring you back into this conversation, do you feel like we're missing anything right now, 3 episodes in? Are you watching any of these episodes and being like, damn, I really wish Ego was here for this, or Heidi was here for this?
I think the show has the people, the star power, and the talent to fill roles in sketches previously filled by Ego and Heidi. The first time that I really felt their absence was probably Domingo, because I don't love it to start, but Heidi and Ego are so great in that sketch. And I really like seeing the combination of Sarah, Heidi, Ego, and then insert pop star. I think that I don't want to, I'm trying to be, I don't want to give the wrong idea. I really miss Ego. And not just because there's not another Black woman, but the fact that I don't miss Heidi is not because there are other, white women sketch performers. I don't really know. I haven't quite figured it out. I think that there are other. I don't know. I had grappled with Heidi's departure because I think that it was teased a little bit last year, in the same way that I think that a lot of other departures were teased that did not come to fruition. I had not contemplated Ego's departure yet. And, the way that it happened, we didn't really get to reckon with it the way that we did the announcements from the week prior. I really was not ready to see Ego go. I think that Heidi had episodes that she just dominated. We know that from the numbers. We know that from the vibes. I really wanted Ego to have that season where she just dominated the power rankings. And not that she didn't, but before she left. And so I'm personally mourning that. But I don't think the show so far is want for anything, because they had talents that nobody else could match. And so I'm also hopeful that they have such big shoes to fill, but we need that turnover in order for other performers to grow to fill those shoes. So that's my roundabout way of saying no, but also in my heart a little bit.
I miss Ego too.
I think that
Ego especially. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Dan.
Ego especially, I'm feeling her loss the most, just because there's a certain combination of sincerity and assertion and just overall goofiness that particular combo no other cast member had, and I'm definitely feeling the absence of it in these last few episodes.
I think the thing is that, as you said, Amanda, the sequence of events occurred where we saw the departures and then all wrapped our heads around the idea that, oh, wow, this could actually be Ego season. She could be the star of season 51. And she sort of falls in the same boat as Heidi of there was just so many years where we wanted to see the two of them running this show. And Kate and Aidy and Cecily were still there when they were supposed to leave a few years earlier. So we lost valuable years from them running the show. And then the ending wasn't exactly the way we wanted it to be either. So it's a lot of what ifs with, I would say, even both Heidi and Ego, but especially Ego, who I think that we're always going to remember for being just a silent killer. Never the one who was just running the show, but having some really awesome sketches and one of the greatest update performers ever, but didn't take over the show the way that I think we thought that she could. Casey, I remember even talking to you about this in season 46, where she was just having an unbelievable year. And we were this could be her show next year. And it just never got there fully.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if it weren't for maybe Bowen or Chloe or Heidi or Keenan, it could have been Ego's show. And it is an ensemble show. It's not one single person show. And Ego very much established herself as being a valuable member of the ensemble. She just dominated through just her sheer charisma and impeccable comedic timing alone. And who knows when they're going to find, any woman to bring what Ego brought to the show in that regard and, balance out the female cast. So, yeah, it's just you do feel Ego's loss in that her, her comedic timing and charisma is unmatched. And as far as like, black female representation on the show, they have hired black female writers, and we could get black women hosts who would be, a great, who would actually, help those black women writers get their stuff on the show and be a good, vessel for their voice, so to speak. And who knows? I mean, we could see one of those two black women writers get promoted to the cast soon. I mean, that is in a way how I believe Sashir Zameda and Leslie Jones got promoted to the cast shortly after, when Leslie's Case joining as a writer and Sashir joining the cast. So, I do think, the show, should have the show has a way or two that I see it that they could fill the void of what did Ego bring to the show, just like Ashley and Veronica could match what Heidi brought to the show. And suddenly my fears that they were going to go back to the days of putting Keenan and possibly Cam in drag just to fill,
Not gonna happen.
that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about that. But Dan and Casey, great thoughts. Thank you both for joining us here tonight. So Dan, I really appreciate you. Always wonderful to hear from you.
Always a pleasure, you guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and the dog behaved great, so good job.
It was just a beginning hiccup, but like he's still not on the top list of dogs tonight.
All
So,
right,
but
we're
like
working
we'll
on
get
it.
him next time.
We're doing some training. So good. And Casey, thank you. Always love hearing your thoughts and listening to everything you got going on.
Yes, well, thanks for having me. And if I could be allowed a couple quick plugs,
Sure.
Me and Deej are still doing the We Heart Hater podcast. We just put out an episode winding down our season 32 coverage. We reviewed the finale with Zach Braff, and I posted my review of that one on my blog. So those are out there for you to hear and read. And I'll be reviewing all the November episodes, and coming up on We Heart Hater, we're going to do part 3 of our No Small Roles series, and that'll focus on Bill's guest cameos on animated shows. And then we might start, we might do some of our favorite moments of season 32 and then start on season 23. So who knows? We'll update you as we plan that out.
Amazing. Season 32, my favorite season. So can't wait to listen to that one, Casey. So appreciate you both joining us here tonight, and we'll chat soon. All right, Amanda, we got one more patron joining us here tonight. So happy to cap things off with my man, Jared is here. Jared, how are you?
Hey, John, feeling good? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Welcome to the show.
Awesome. Happy to be here. Great to see you, and great to meet the great Amanda as well. I appreciate that.
Yes.
Hi, Jared. Thanks for coming.
Of course.
So, Jared, how have you felt about season 51?
I felt pretty darn good so far. The Bad Bunny episode impressed me more than I thought it would. He's really come along as a sketch performer, and I know he has the English as a second language thing. Like, I can't imagine trying to learn Spanish and going on a sketch comedy show. So that's pretty rough. And then going to Amy Poehler, very good classic episode. And with Sabrina Carpenter, I think she's on such an upward trajectory. I think she'll eventually hit, I think, Ariana Grande or Lady Gaga status on the show on SNL. She's definitely on that upward trend. And then coming up, I'm really happy to see Nikki Glazer going to be on the show as well. She's definitely at the pinnacle of her profession, and I believe and at least two of her openers have made it. Emil Joaquin was one of her openers, and I believe Tommy Brennan opened for her as well. So the show owes her a little bit, and it's good that she finally gets to shine. Though, John, can I show you something real quick?
Of course. Yeah, go
SNL
for it.
related. So
Yeah.
I think you need to do some travel podcasts over in Cleveland at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, because they have the SNL 50 Years of Music exhibit, which I'm from Cleveland. I just visited there and went to the exhibit. So I'm wearing my More Cowbell shirt
Very
that
cool.
I purchased there. And of course, purchased a nice magnet as well. And then they were also selling this really neat poster. And I'm going to flip my camera. So are you guys able to see the poster? So I
Yes,
know
yes.
it's inverted. So it's 50 iconic designs. So it starts at Land Shark, and you can recognize some of the ones on here, like Matt Foley, motivational speaker, and then it goes to the Californians, and it goes all the way through Domingo. So it's a pretty sweet poster that I'm excited to put on my wall. But they have a lot of neat exhibits there as well. And let me flip that back.
No worries. Well, what was interesting is that I saw that design last year, and I was talking with the guys who we work with over here, and we were trying to figure out, like, okay, are they going to put Domingo on the poster? And then what iconic characters are they going to put from the last few years? Because they stopped, having iconic characters, but I guess they were able to just get Domingo in there at the very last minute.
Oh dear. Seems I've lost my camera for some reason.
Okay, we got you, Jared. I can see you. If you.
Oh, you can see me. All right, very good.
You can see it. Yeah, all good. But
excellent.
But
Yeah,
great stuff.
so-
And also, that does remind me. I will probably do a better ask at the start of the next feedback show. But we are exploring the idea of doing some sort of live podcast sometime in the spring in New York. So not exactly in Cleveland, but in New York. So I definitely want to gauge interest from the patrons and from people in our chat to see if that's something that they would be interested in coming out for, if we do some sort of live watch party and live hot take show. I know it's like a late at night thing, but if people want to come to that, that's something that we're definitely exploring for the spring. But Jared, I don't want to take up all your time. So I would love to know if you have any questions for Amanda or I.
Yeah, you definitely should do your definitely do the live broadcast from the motherland. That makes
We'll start there.
A lot more sense. Yeah. My question. So as I'm getting more and more familiar with SNL and analyzing episodes, my question for you is, what approach do you take to analyze sketches objectively? Because I find that I'm often caught in what I would call the glow of a sketch and be like, oh, that's funny. They're imitating teenage boys. Oh, it's Trump. Oh, that was so freaking awesome. It's the best sketch ever. And then later on, like, I watch you guys be like, yeah, but it was missing this. Maybe they could have transitioned here better. So what advice do you have for analyzing sketches objectively?
Well, I don't know that I have a perfect answer, so I'll just do my best, which is that I've watched so many sketches at this point. I've watched the whole series of SNL twice. So for me, I feel like I can notice patterns and things in sketches that I wouldn't have noticed on my first watch or second watch, where I'm like, okay, well, this kind of reminds me of this. And then I see it like in a different way. And I think that getting a good understanding of the writing of sketches really helps a lot, because it's not just like what you see on the field, but you're also trying to picture, like, how did this come together? So a lot of that is reading books, watching interviews. And I think that collecting all of this information in my brain has allowed me to, like, break things down even further. But yeah, even like I have my favorites. I'm always excited when a certain cast member walks into the room and I'm like, okay, there's going to be a pop here. So I can't help myself as a fan to see that. But objectively, I'd say it's probably gotten easier since I've had the privilege of going to the show, being backstage, meeting all these people, and then like getting to know that like they're all sitting there working their asses off all week to get things on air. I have to be loyal to our fans of the podcast and listeners of the podcast first and say whether things work or not. But I'm also able to look at this as like a sports journalist the way that they would, as opposed to just like a fan. Amanda, does anything changed for you since you've become more of a regular podcaster with us?
Yes, and I would say I don't think that what the way in which we speak is like objectivity versus subjectivity. I think that the most objective that we are is when we're looking at the numbers and like on the by the numbers show, because that's literally just looking at the stats. I still think that we're being subjective, but instead of just thinking, it's all based on what we like and like kind of like what you're saying, what speaks to you, what interests you. You just start to track the patterns of why you liked it, or like why this worked for you, or like these types of sketches, this type of structure works for me, or like this type, we on the podcast, I feel like all know that we don't like buttons at the end of a sketch. Like that's a very easy, but that's not necessarily objective. It's just like the patterns. We see how things work, and it's just from being like absolutely nerdy about it, and just like like seeing things relating back to historical sketches and just like observing it in context. But I still don't I feel like I would caution against like seeking objectivity, because I think the subjectivity is so beautiful. And I think even among like the podcasters that are way more seasoned than I am, that I admire so much, there's still disagreement all the time, because things subjectively work differently for different people. And that's what's fun about them throwing a bunch of things at the wall every night, is that different things. And sometimes there's a sketch that just works for me and I don't know why. I'm like, this shouldn't work for me because I don't typically like this type of sketch, but it just gets me. And like, that's beautiful. So that's my piece.
You both bring Jared, up, if you don't mind, if I just add to what Amanda just said, because I she sort of elicited other thoughts in me, which is that
journalism.
I think that one of the things that I tend to say is that I don't really care if you find a sketch funny or not. Like, I'm happy that people do find things funny, and there's things that I find funny and not funny, but I don't think that SNL is measured in funny. You don't have a good episode because everything is funny or everything's not, because I think that what's funny to somebody is so not funny to somebody else. And I just think it's really hard to cover the show in viewing Saturday Night Live as something being funny or not. And if you want to watch it, that's as funny or not funny, that's your right. And I actually think it's kind of cool to judge the entire community on like what people find more funny than not funny. But I will say that why something works for you or why something doesn't, that's what makes our podcasters great podcasters. That's what I look for in people who come onto our show, is that they're able to say, well, it's not just that I really like this sketch, but the reason why this sketch worked for me is X, then yes, I feel really good about that.
Okay. Yeah, the sports journalism comparison is good. I hadn't thought about that before, and same for the funny thing and why it works, why it doesn't work. Yeah. All right.
Look, I think the major difference between us and sports is that in sports there's a clear objective winner and loser, unless like an NFL game ends in a tie. But like there's a winner or loser, and you could be like, why did this player help their team win the game, or why did this player help, why did they contribute to their team losing the game? In Saturday Night Live, there's no clear winners or losers on a given week, unless you're going to talk and measure it in terms of screen time. So that's why we have that show. But then there's also the idea of watching it and covering it and talking about why things work or they didn't work. And I do believe that's part of the success of our show, is that we found people who are like interesting enough people who are able to describe why sketches work or not.
And it changes. Our opinions on sketches do change throughout the week. I try not to be like too heavily influenced by outside noise as I'm trying to like discern my opinion. But I do think that sketches, like if you marinate on something a little bit, it changes for you, or you revisit and you find different reasons to like things. I don't know. Maybe we just take this way too.
Don't say it.
Okay, well, I won't say it. We don't. But if somebody were to just drop in not knowing us, then we might seem a little.
Look, I get it every day. Every day I will have, without a doubt, someone commenting on one of our accounts on social media saying like, you guys take this too seriously, it's just a show or whatever. That's fine. But there's a reason that this show has been on the air for 50 years. I didn't just make up out of thin air that I like the show because of all of the, sports analogies or things that I view it, like people have been watching the show like this for decades. It's just not always articulated that way.
Right. And people are way crazier about sports and nobody questions that. So that's usually my defense to like being so in the weeds about Saturday Night Live. And also there's so many of us and this community is the best because like you don't have to like convince, your all your friends to be as obsessed with it as we all are because we have each other.
You think William Shatner would tell us to get a life?
Probably. But also, I do think that there is a much harder path to become a fan of a sport than there is to become a fan of Saturday Night Live. I think that there is, a lot of explaining to do when it comes with like trying to understand, like if you never watched a football game or grew up with your family that watched a game. But if you are like interested in a show that might make you laugh and is really interesting, there's a million documentaries and books and historical precedents that's in the show. Like it is the coolest show on television. There's a community of people who love the show. And honestly, like I like Saturday Night Live because part of the reason I like Saturday Night Live is because I grew up with friends watching it and then most of them fell off the show. And now I use the SNN to make more friends. So like, it's cool.
There's nothing like it. It's like, it's just the most unbelievable attempt every week. And like the fact that we just get to see how it unfolds and then analyze, it's just, yeah,
it's awesome. But I hope that wasn't too big of an answer, but I appreciate the question.
No, it was no, great response. Gave me some stuff to think about going forward for the season. So I really appreciate that.
Of course. And Jared, thanks for being our closer here tonight. I appreciate you joining us.
All right. Thanks for the time.
Awesome. All right. We will chat soon, Jared. So hope to speak to you next time. All right, Amanda, can we rapid fire through some of the other mailbag questions that we have here?
Heck yeah.
All right, let's do it. All right, we're going to go through some of the other questions that we have because I know we have some that are left on the table. I want to make sure we get to as many as we can. We have one from Andrea who asked, do you think Martin will get more opportunities to write and direct? So we saw that sketch from Martin, the film at the end of the last show. Do you think we're going to get more of those?
Yes. To write, direct, and then act. And yes, I don't know how many, but I think we will get at least one more.
I think it's something that I didn't think about prior to the season, but it was just so obvious that like, obviously Martin's good at making films. So he's going to be one of the film pieces this season. I'll be interested when Dan Bula is done with the Sandler tour, if we get more of his sketches or his films on the show.
Yeah, more Sarah stuff.
Yeah, that type of thing that we saw last year, a lot of that. Oh yeah, great. There you go. We'll write in your background. And then perhaps maybe some of those Streeter Mikey cartoons will return, but I think that Martin might take the PDD slot to himself, which is interesting. So that's a storyline to watch. Mason asked, I feel like we need a breakdown on Mikey Day. I always associated him with Ego and Heidi, so I was surprised he stuck around. Now I'm not really sure what his role is on the show. Where do you think Mikey can make the most impact this year? How can he justify his decision to stay over bringing in new talent? Your thoughts?
I think we need to be on watch for a Mikey mid-season departure.
No chance.
Okay, so don't be on watch then.
Fine, you could watch yourself. Yeah, go ahead.
I feel this way. I don't think Keenan, just because Keenan, but I feel this way about Mikey, Keenan, and Bowen. I think that they are coming in for their, the pockets that they, what they usually do, but less and less. And I don't know. So far, I have not seen a push to integrate Mikey or Keenan or pair Mikey and Keenan consistently with a new cast member or a younger cast member. I think Mikey's the GOAT. I don't want him to leave, but part of me wonders if this was a Lauren carry us over a la Cecily through the Christmas episode, especially based on maybe I'm just like, I don't want to be taken for a fool for the way that I felt tricked in the spring, but those are the vibes that I'm getting. I don't know. I think it's very easy to justify Mikey sticking around, and I don't think he stayed over bringing in new talent because we saw 5 new cast members come in. I don't think we wanted more than that, even if Mikey had left. Mikey's like the GOAT, and I could see him playing with other people the way that he did with Heidi so much. And I love Mikey, and Mikey always delivers, but I don't know. I don't see him looking to carve out a new spot for himself amongst what this new cast looks like. So I'm just putting it out there. Those are the vibes that I've been getting, is that we could see a Mikey Day, Bo and Yang departure Christmas 2025. What year is it? Yeah.
2025. Mikey, I can't see, because I think that the people who leave mid-season, a la Cecily, are people who want to leave. And I don't think Mikey wants to leave the show. There's just been no indication of it. So if he doesn't want to leave, then I don't think he's going to right now. I think Bowen, we talk about in this potential departure role, because he has indicated that his career at Saturday Night Live might be over, both on his podcast, like in the past, and like he's sort of like he's, maybe that's too far. I think he's teased it, and also his popularity of the show has grown so much. Like Mikey has all the is it cake, but beyond that, his biggest contribution to the show is that his like in the modern times is that like him and Streeter are an amazing writing duo, and Streeter is one of the heads of the show. So I just can't see it, Amanda. I'm sorry.
Okay, I guess there's a world where he becomes head writer though, or something, and
easily, Mikey and Streeter could be great head writers of the show. I have no issue with that. Where can Mikey make the most impact this year? Now that's an interesting question. I do think that look, the question for Mikey will become: does he fall into the line of Keenan, where he just sticks around until the show doesn't want him there anymore, or he decides to go? Or does he perhaps carve out this sort of senior role for himself, where he maybe does what Heidi did last year, where like Heidi was on the show at the same time as Ashley, and then there's like a little bit of mentorship there, and perhaps Mikey in this role with people like Tommy, people like Jeremy, maybe finds a way to guide them into the next generation of this show. I think that's something that's interesting to think about there, especially since Tommy in the in that like office work birth sketch that we saw in the Amy's episode, I feel like Tommy took like a very Mikey Day role in that sketch.
Yeah, that's true. All right, I will hone in, and I will observe and see after the next couple episodes.
Yes, we'll see. And you could be right. You never know. What do I know?
It's happened before.
Definitely. Manette asked us, does the previous July of South Park's political satire influence in any way the way SNL has been using James as Trump? So I wasn't that I know there was like this whole thing with South Park where they were criticizing Trump, and then they like decided not to air some of those out. Like, are you familiar with this whole thing?
I'm a little bit familiar. I wonder if it ties into just the climate in general of Trump coming after late night and media backing off of Trump in ways that they haven't before, because fearing for their own longevity and sustainability. I do not, because I think that Trump is very used to the JAJ portrayal of him. I actually saw JAJ last week moderate a Rolling Stone panel, which was like really crazy to see him in a role like that, like where he wasn't doing a character and he was just like having a conversation. But he talked about how Trump has like commented on his impression and he doesn't really care. So I think that Trump could come after Saturday Night Live, and I know he's threatened to before, and that he is frustrated, but I almost feel like he was more pissed off about Baldwin than he is about JAJ. I don't really see it impacting JAJ as Trump. I could see impacts on the show at large, and like I could see him coming after Update in a more serious way, and whether or not how Colin and Che contend with that, I'm not sure. I hope that doesn't happen. I hope we don't have to find out, but that's to me what I see as more of a vulnerability than JAJ's Trump, which to me is like kind of generous. Like it's almost like a whimsical portrayal of Trump. I know we had thought maybe he would go a little bit darker in Trump's second term. I haven't really seen that personally, so I don't know. But again, Trump could wake up and change his mind and come for it. But I don't really feel like the pressures that South Park was under and that late night TV, not show late night, is under, has so far been affronted upon Saturday Night Live. So We'll see.
I would say I'm a little bit disappointed that SNL didn't address in the premiere more of the things that was going on with Trump and late night, and then Kimmel being in Brooklyn and not even potentially bringing him on the show. Like, I think those are things that could have been really fun. But I was actually, before the premiere, interviewed by a really nice journalist at the Wall Street Journal who was writing a piece, and I believe you could find it online, about how SNL portrays Trump in his second term. And we had a great call, and he was asking me questions about it. And I just sort of said my 2 cents on it, which is that I think that Lauren probably learned a lot of lessons from Alec and what he did in the first term. And I think Lauren is business-minded, knows what's happening in late night television right now, and is trying to play Trump on the show, but also not keep him in the line of fire. And I think that that is like a strategic decision that's happening right now. So, yeah. All right, let's keep going. Let's do some more rapid fire with some of the other questions. This one comes from our friend Eager on Instagram, who said, can you explain Dress versus Live, where we can find the Dress version? I'm a new fan. Where will you find writing credits for each sketch? So I'll just address this quickly, which is that Dress airs about a couple hours in advance of the live show. We cannot find the Dress version. They do record it and they put it on the server at SNL, but they don't publish the Dress sketches unless they want to replace something, or very rare occasions they'll post a Dress version of a sketch. That happened. That's what we saw with the fart sketch last week, is that they did the Dress version instead of the air version, and you could tell because Sabrina Carpenter's wig was different. So that's typically SNL's discretion of what they post. Writing credits for each sketch. So unfortunately, the show doesn't really want to do like a full, hey, here are the writing credits for each sketch of the night. That's just not the way that they like to go about things, partially because sometimes if people don't like a sketch, then they tend to go after the writer and they're trying to protect the writer. For the most part, though, writers tend to post their own writing credits on Instagram stories or on Twitter every now and then about saying like, hey, this was my sketch and this is who I wrote it with. So those are typically compiled. And then generally, if there's something that's like not out there but relevant to our discussion, I'll include it in the podcast at some point during the week. So if you're ever missing like a specific writing credit, I do try and put those in if I think everything is kosher to do so. Def_Goldblum asks, who do you think will host the Christmas episode? Any few months out picks, Amanda, for the Christmas episode?
I have a musical guest.
Okay, go for it.
Haley Williams.
Okay, why?
Because she's the best ever. Has she ever been on SNL? No, right?
Has Paramore ever been on? I don't think so. Yeah.
That's a travesty. She has a solo album. She's blowing up. She should be the musical guest. The host. Let's keep going. I don't have one at this moment. Do you?
What do you think one? I think I did one for predictions, but I forgot which one it is now. But I'm not the best at predicting hosts and musical guests. I'll say that. All right, this one comes from Zero Harper W3, who says, why isn't Marcelo getting a lot of screen time anymore? It was just 2 weeks. Like they had him in the premiere. I think they wanted to feature other people. I think that we're going to get plenty of Marcelo this season. We got him. I mean, even the last 2 weeks where he wasn't all over the show, he was on Weekend Update, Amanda. So I feel like they gave the Marcelo fans what they wanted.
And he's in sketches, even if he's not anchoring him. Like he was in that grind pre-tape. He just wasn't he wasn't Bowen or Jeremy's role, or Ben, I guess. He was just in it.
Agreed. Yeah, I think we're going to get more Marcelo. All right. Okay, I'll tell you this last question. This one comes from Horosovskid, who asks, what is a sketch from the season you think should have gotten a better reception? Do you have any sketches that you're like, I really like that one. I wish we were talking about it more. I have one if you want me to go first.
Yeah, go first.
Yeah, I think that the Andrew Dismukes non-alcoholic beer sketch was so funny, that commercial. And I already put it into practice this week, where we hosted like a mini Halloween party last Friday. It was really like less of a party and more of like a friend get together in costumes. But
that's what a party is.
Well,
we're 32 years old.
How many people qualify as a party? Like, what's the minimum criteria?
8.
Okay, we were more than 8, so fine. We had a
You
party.
had a Halloween party.
We had a Halloween party on Friday night.
You
So,
just had a huge wedding. That's why you're hesitant to call it a party.
I guess, yeah. It just depends on the definition of huge, but we could debate that another time. But one of my friends' girlfriends came over, and I was like, "Oh, what are you drinking?" Like, she brought like her own beer, and she was like, "Oh, my non-alcoholic beer," and I was like, "You're non," and then I was like, I made it a thing because like I'm like, you should call it a non.
It's not ubiquitous. Like it's not out there in the culture the way that you would like it to have been.
No, I want nons to become more of a thing. So,
but it was non-alcoholic.
It was not 96% alcohol.
Right.
Yes.
You
got anything? If not, that is totally fine. Yeah, there's a lot of sketches that have gotten pretty good reception so far, I'd say, and we're only 3 episodes in.
I love the grind song pre-tape from Sabrina Carpenter. That was excellent for me. And yeah, I don't know that it hasn't. Like I haven't checked in on the reception.
Yeah. Do you have any good grind stories 2 hours and 40 minutes into this podcast?
No.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, let's close it out there. So, so honestly, this was a fantastic first feedback show of season 51. Amanda, I'm really appreciative of you joining us here on the show. I'm sure everyone was really excited to get to talk to you. So thanks for doing it.
You're so welcome. In addition to the hole in my shirt, I seem to have developed a pimple throughout this pot. I just wanted to call it because I was like looking and I was like, what's on my face? And I thought it was something. And it's like and that's actually where my nose used to be pierced. So lots of like interesting things coming out of looking at yourself and, and everyone else on the screen for 2 hours and 40 minutes is really a unique experience on a Monday night that I'm so happy to share with you all.
Yeah, exactly. Ashley's breaking out and so are you. So this is
oh my God, Ashley and I have something in common.
Yeah, great start to season 51. Well, really, like I said, thankful to all the patrons for supporting us and joining us and everybody who sent in questions for this show. Very excited to be back here on Saturday night to talk about the Miles Teller and Brandy Carlisle episode of SNL, where we will be back immediately after that episode airs to break down all of the sketches from the night. We'll have our roundtable and by the numbers next week, and we got 3 more weeks of shows before we break again in November. So I'm very excited for this next run. These feedback shows always make me so hyped. So really appreciate everyone for continuing to hype me up for these next few shows. All right, I want to tell everybody where they can find us. So you can always find us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And please subscribe if you're watching and not subscribing. What are you doing? Because you can really help other people find the show. So I appreciate you clicking that subscribe button. We also ask you to follow us on social media at the SNL Network, where we'll have great information about the Miles Teller show coming up in just a few days' time. And of course, I want to thank Late Nighter for being our presenting partner for the show here tonight. So on behalf of everyone here at the SNN and you, Amanda, my name is Jon Schneider, and we will see you next time. Have a good one.